So from our studios here at number 5 Oula Hansen Lane, this is a roundtable discussion labeled John Mahama 2.0, a thematic assessment of the first year of the second term. My name is Bernard and I'm here to moderate a live conversation involving 6 thematic areas: economy, education, environment, agriculture, good governance and infrastructure. It's to get a sense of how well this president is doing before a live audience of students from Unimac here in Accra and the academic city also in Accra. It's an interactive program which is live on ChannelOne television and also on 97.3 Citi FM. If you're listening on radio, please feel free to send us your comments on 1 year of John Mahama on the WhatsApp number 054 998 6996. There's also a WhatsApp number on the television screen for those of you who are watching us. We're live also on YouTube and other social media platforms. So when we come back, we'll be bringing you the intros of our 6 thematic area experts who we have carefully selected to lead discussions on this very important assessment. Stay with us. Yes, indeed. We are live here in Accra, bringing you a roundtable discussion assessing 1 year of the John Mahama presidency. We call it Mahama 2.0. This is the second iteration. For those of you who don't know, John Mahama is in his second term, in a sense, because his first presidency, indeed, was in 2012 to 2016. And then, of course, he's back in 2024 with his 25 inauguration. This week is 1 week and 1 year and a week of his being president for his second and final term. We've selected 6 experts from 6 key thematic areas to lead an analysis of his performance in front of a live student audience who will be joining us with their questions later on. For the economic thematic area, our expert is Professor William Boateng. Let's take his intro.
Professor William Boateng is a highly respected Ghanaian economist with over 25 years of experience in teaching, research, and public policy. He is a senior faculty member of the University of Ghana and is widely recognized in Ghana and across Africa for his work in labor economics, development policy, and institutional reform. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Ghana and has received advanced training at Harvard University. Professor Boateng made history as the first full professor in the University of Ghana's Department of Economics in 50 years and previously served 2 terms as head of department. Professor Boateng is currently Vice Chancellor of Methodist University, Ghana.
So we welcome Prof. Boateng, who I'm happy to say was my lecturer many years ago. He keeps reminding me that my first class is provisional. I don't know how long that's going to be. Prof, it's good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Congrats on your appointment.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So next on our list is another professor in whom I'm well pleased. He is in charge of our agric thematic area, Professor Roger Canton-Lurie.
Professor Roger Canton is a respected agricultural scientist and former chief research scientist with the Savannah Agricultural Research Institute, part of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in Ghana. He is widely recognized for his expertise in agriculture, food security, and agribusiness development. He has been active in public advocacy on agriculture policies, consistently calling for stronger national support for value-added agriculture, food processing, and innovation to improve productivity and rural livelihoods. His work emphasizes practical solutions to reduce post-harvest losses, improve financing and processing infrastructure, and empower farmers.
Professor Roger Canton-Lurie is our thematic area expert for agriculture. Prof, great to have you. Thanks for joining us. Good morning. It is my pleasure. Our next expert is covering the rubric of environment. One of the rising stars within the environmental sciences, Dr. Ekuya Odum.
He's an accomplished environmental scientist with over a decade of professional experience in climate change adaptation, environmental assessment, natural resource management, and sustainability advisory services in Ghana and across Africa. She holds a doctorate in environmental science from the University of Ghana with advanced academic training in climate change and sustainable development. Dr. Odum currently serves as a research officer at the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, where she leads thematic research on climate risk pathways and urban governance under the Cascade Project.
So, for the first time on ChannelOne and Citi FM, we're happy to bring to you Dr. Ikwe Odum. Really a pleasure to have you. You come highly recommended. Thanks for joining us, Doc.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. We're also continuing with our introductions. Next is the governance and anti-corruption area, and she's not a stranger at all. She is in the person of Mary Ada.
Mrs. Mary Awilana Ada is an accomplished governance and anti-corruption professional and the Executive Director of Ghana Integrity Initiative, the national chapter of Transparency International. She brings over a decade of experience in promoting transparency, accountability, and good governance in Ghana. Mrs. Ada joined the Ghana Integrity Initiative in 2009 and progressed through key leadership roles including Senior Program and Research Officer, Program Manager, Acting Executive Director, and ultimately Executive Director in 2023. She has led the design and implementation of major governance and anti-corruption programs, overseeing strategy, advocacy, and institutional growth.
So we bring back again Mary Ada, who together with Professor Canton were on our 120-day assessment of the Mahama administration. So Mary, welcome back. Thank you so much. It's good to have you. Amazing. The next thematic area is one that a lot of our radio listeners will be interested in. We call it roads and infrastructure. More emphasis on infrastructure. David Ofusu-Dorte is our thematic area lead for that sector.
David Ofosu-Dorte is the senior partner of AB & David Africa, a Pan-Africa business law firm with offices in 5 countries and a network of firms in a total of 24 African countries. His experience cuts across construction projects, project finance, the power sector, and public-private partnerships. He has played lead advisory roles in numerous infrastructure transactions and has been described as highly regarded and a highly esteemed figure for his diverse commercial practice as well as his experience in finance matters. In addition to law, David also holds master's degrees in public administration and in applied business research and is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport.
Always a pleasure. David, thank you so much. And David will be hosting Crystal Ball Africa on the 22nd day of January. It's a Pan-African conference that looks into the year. It's a very exciting program that we are part of as 97.3 Citi FM. Last but not least is our friend from the educational sector, Mr. Kofi Asare.
Kofi Asare is the Executive Director of EduWatch with over 20 years of experience supporting education and public sector institutions in Ghana. He has worked closely with schools, communities, government agencies, and international organizations to strengthen education systems and improve learning outcomes. He has played key leadership and advisory roles in Ghana's education sector, including chairing the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, serving on ministerial advisory and technical committees, and contributing to the development of Ghana's education strategic plans. He also worked for several years as a rapporteur for the Ministry of Education and has developed training manuals for the Ghana Education Service.
Wow. Thank you very much, Kofi Asare. He's become the leading voice on education advocacy in the country, and we're very happy to have him. I'd like to welcome all my panel members. Thank you very much for being here. This is the Roundtable Discussion, a thematic assessment of 1 year of the Mahama presidency. We call it Mahama 2.0. The program is in 3 parts. Part 1, I'm going to give each of the experts a few minutes to basically tell us their own assessment of the 1 year of the Mahama government from the thematic area we've given them. It's a complex issue, so you can design the methodology you will use. Some will say fair, pass, some will give rankings, will not restrict you at all. But after that, we are doing a panel discussion where we would ask specific questions around some of the things you would have said to us. But we're lucky to have some very bright students from Unimac, used to be called GIJ. If they are here, let them give me an applause. And also from the academic Citi, who will be sharing their views on some of the points raised here, and also asking questions. If they also want to assess the government, why not? They have a right to speak as well. So students, please get ready to be involved in the third part of the program. And I'll let Umaru Sanda Amadu, my colleague, moderate that segment for me. Umaru Sanda, are you here? Let's put our hands together for Umaru Sanda Amadu. Umaru Sanda hosts Face to Face on ChannelOne Television and Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. So I think we need to start with the economy because it appears to be at the basis of everything. Partly because the thematic area expert was my lecturer for 4 years, and therefore I want to appease him. I'd like to invite Professor William Mahama to take us through quickly his own assessment from an economic perspective of the first year of the Mahama government. Prof, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ben. And good morning to the audience and good morning to viewers and listeners all over the world. So my assessment is going to be based on what the government set out to do in its own budget at the beginning of its term. And the budget was read somewhere in March. I remember March 11th. So I will give an intro by saying that managing an economy is like a doctor managing the health of an individual. And I like to use this analogy because we are all human beings and we fall sick and we go to the hospital. So we have doctors who will look at us. And when the government took over, one major problem that confronted the government was the challenge of macro stability. And therefore, the assessment of this government, 1 year, will focus more on that. So if you look at macro stability, we are talking about inflation. And let me say that normally when we are assessing the government or an economy, we tend to focus more on exchange rate. But if you take the objectives of every macro economics, there are 4 objectives. The first one is economic growth. The second one is price stability, that is domestic price stability. The third one is desired employment. So we try to bring unemployment so low. And the fourth one is balance of payment. So if you look at Ghana, and I start my analysis, the data from January 2016, and you realize that NDC at that time had a challenge of macro stability. Inflation went to 15% at the time. If you remember in 2000, during the election which brought MPP to power, inflation went up to somewhere 50 or thereabout. If you look at 2008, we had the same thing. So macro stability happens to be the driver of decision of voters. So we ended the year in 2024 with inflation around 23%. And then we had our growth, which was also around 5% or thereabout. Exchange rate was a problem because exchange rate drives inflation. So everybody was talking about the exchange rate instability, volatility, and so on. And let me also say this in my analysis, that we are always quick to say the exchange rate is so high. It's 14, it's 11, it's 10. In economic analysis, exchange rate, the level of the exchange rate is not the most important thing. But the most important thing is the fluctuation. Because currently the exchange rate is about 10 to $1. But if you go back and you add 10, we add 4 zeros, then it's 100,000 to $1. So it is not about what amount do we use to exchange for $1, but the most important thing is the fluctuation. So If my first graph, if it were shown, you realize that over the past few years after the COVID, especially from 2022, inflation went up. It went up to about 54% before coming down.
So that would be the red line.
That would be the red. So the red one shows inflation.
Okay.
So from January 2016, you see some fluctuation, but it wasn't that much. But we hit the wall somewhere in 2000, and we all know what happened. So we are not going to go back there. But to see whether exchange rate also influences inflation, the green one also shows you the change in exchange rate. And I'm using the price quotation, how we measure our exchange rate. And you can see that when inflation started moving up, you see how the exchange rate was behaving. That's the green one. It goes up and down and so on.
So the green is the percentage change. So the volatility is in how up and down it goes.
Up and down it goes.
Related
but of course,
to the
blue
red line.
one is the level. The blue one is the level. So we went up and then came down, went up, came down, and now we are at 10.
So if I get you right, you're saying most people focus on the level of the blue,
yes,
that is 16 or 10.
Yes.
But the important thing is to look at whether the green line is flat or stable.
Exactly.
So the most important factor is the green line.
It's the green line.
Not the blue line.
Not the blue line.
Thank you.
So not the level. So when you are making it go up or down, appreciation or depreciation is not good for any economy. But the stability or the movement of the rate is the most important part of it for the economy.
Thank you.
And when we go to the next level, it tells you about economic growth, and it is also about how the economy had fared. And growth has also been erratic, and we've not been able to have consistent growth. And if you look at it from 2022 quarter 1 to 2025 quarter 3, you see we move up, we come down, we move up, we come down. And if we have this kind of instability, it's not good for any economy. And you go to the third one, that also gives you an idea about what all of us are happy about. If you have a job and you can put your hand on regular salary, you are happy. And that is employment. And we can also look at that by looking at the level of unemployment. And we have been having unemployment rate hovering around the teens. And it is around the 13, 14, and so on. So what you have there is an average unemployment rate for the 3 years. So you have the unemployment rate for everybody 15 and above, and that was 14.6%, and this is average, because this data comes from quarterly data, and I have done the average so that it will make the graph look simpler. And youth unemployment rate, we ended at 32%. That the youth between 15 and 24. So if at the time this is where we were, it means we have to also look at unemployment as well. And that influenced what the government wanted to do when it took over. And in the budget, if you look at the next slide.
So before that, if I get you right, the blue chart is more important as youth. No, go back to, stay there, please don't move, stay there. Please stay on the unemployment slide. I just want to understand something. You're saying the youth unemployment is the issue, the fact that it's higher than the other two, the 15 to 24.
Yeah. So we have two types of youth definition.
All right.
So Ghana, we adopt the AU definition, which is 15 to 35.
Good. That's the purple one.
But the purple one.
All right.
And then the UN has its own definition of youth. That is 15 to 24.
Good.
And then we have everybody who is eligible to work, that is 15 and above.
Good.
So the green one is 15 and above, everybody. And that we ended the year maybe averaging around 12.8%.
Which means that for the 15 to 24, it's gone up in 2025.
Yes, and I will explain. In my analysis, I will explain what government has done, and therefore government has done well, but who is benefiting more.
Can we go to the next slide then?
The next slide is very important. So it tells you what government sought to do when it took over. Government main concern, and if you look at the theme for the budget, it's a resetting for growth, jobs, and economic transformation. To be able to transform the economy, you need to have macro stability. If you want somebody to work for you, the person should have a stable mind to be able to work for you. So stability is very important. So the first year of government, you say prioritize macro stability. One, government wanted to end the year of inflation at 11.9%, and then economic growth, government wanted to grow the economy by 4%. But these are the indicators, but you also need to do something behind the scene to be able to achieve that. And that comes to the reserve and also the fiscal. So government also wanted to end the year primary balance on commitment basis at 1%, and also to have international reserve that will cover at least 3 months of import cover. So at least these are the drivers, something that government was going to do to be able to stabilize the economy and then achieve what it desired to do. There are other things that the government to do at the ministerial level and so on, but these are the major ones. So based on this, let's see what government was able to achieve last year. And I will start with inflation. Government wanted to end the year at 11.9%, but government ended the year at 5.4%. So government overperformed based on its own target. We ended the year at 23.8% inflation, and government said I was going to bring it down to 11%. I think you have to go to the previous slide. So government overachieved that. And because inflation has come down, you also realize that interest rate has also followed suit. So interest rate, interbank interest rate in 2024 was 27%, but now it's about 15.7%. So when the economy is stabilized, when inflation is dropping, you should expect that interest rate will also fall, even though it is not falling the way our prices are falling. So you may have a certain markup. That is why we have that there. And then we also have the exchange rate, which also drives inflation. So we have 14.7% in December 2024, and it's now and it's 10.45% December 2025. So which means that we've had some kind of appreciation, but it is not the appreciation that matters. I am on record to say that at 14.7, we could have still arrived at 10.45% gradually. If you had done that gradually, and you all realize that between April and May, exchange rate dropped from 14% to 10%, 14 cedis to 10. And that sharp appreciation caused some kind of turbulence in the system. Revenue revenue dropped. You have remittances dropping. You have exports complaining. And of course, all of us jubilated because importers were able to bring down prices. And if it trickles down, then all of us are happy. But within it, there were some challenges. And the good thing about what government did when revenue dropped, if you look at the provisional outturn of Minister of Finance own data, when revenue dropped, government also dropped its expenditure. And we always say that you must always cut your coat according to your size. When government realized that revenue has come down, government also made sure that they will also drop expenditure so that expenditure moves in line with revenue, so you don't cause any challenge. That's something that actually came up. So the next slide gives you why the declining inflation. And in our discussion, attribution has been a challenge, and it has been influenced by politics. But since I'm not a politician, I want to go into it based on the economics. So if you look at the declining inflation, it came from the steady appreciation and subsequent stability. When it dropped from 14 down there, I think we've been hovering between 10 and 12, which for me is too wide. I am expecting that it should be within 5%. That is one. The second one is fiscal discipline. Government also did very well. Fiscal side very well, and they even as at October, they have overachieved what they set out to do. So for instance, primary surplus was 1.6% at the end of October, as against 1% target. And overall deficit has gotten to 1.5% as against 3.2% target. So it means that the fiscal is also doing well in terms of the discipline. And we also have improved food production. I think we all know what happened. Citi FM spoke about the glut. And it means that food came up, and therefore food prices also went down. And if you look at inflation trajectory, food prices have been driving inflation down, which was very good. But I can't move without talking about Citi depreciation and appreciation. What caused the appreciation? One of them is favorable gold and cocoa prices. I think the year we've enjoyed that. And secondly, government has also ensured with Bank of Ghana to ensure significant accumulation of reserves. So if you have reserves, anytime you have a challenge, you should be able to manage. And let me also make this point. Many people complain that central bank is intervention and so on. When we take exchange rate management, there are 8 different regimes. There's one extreme, which is fixed exchange rate, pegged. Then one which is flexible. In between, you have managed one. And what we are implementing is what we call managed floating. So the central bank will come in when the need arises. Central bank cannot say the markets should determine everything. So the role of the central bank in managing the exchange rate is very, very important. So how they manage it is what we can talk about. So we can't say they are intervening. No, that is the regime that we are implementing. Fiscal discipline also helped in the exchange rate stability and also appreciation, and then effective coordination between the fiscal and monetary authorities. This is the first time that I've seen that coordination, because if the fiscal and monetary don't come together, then we will have a challenge. And there's one thing that central bank has done, it looks quiet, because the city has stabilized. We don't see what the central bank has done. Central bank is doing some kind of regulation, and it is something that many of us have been speaking about. We don't buy goods and services in dollars or euros. We use cedis. So if you go to the bank to withdraw dollars, you have to show why you are withdrawing dollars. If you are traveling, that is fine. But you can't just go to the bank, walk in and withdraw dollars and put it in your pocket and go and exchange. It is something that the central bank has done quietly, and it has helped, but many people don't know. 2, you can also just go to the bank and say, I have $2 million, I'm going to deposit. You should be able to tell where you got the $2 million. If indeed it is export proceeds, it must come through the banking system. We all know that if you travel and you are coming with foreign exchange, you need to declare if it is more than 10,000. So if you have that amount, you should be able to tell us where you got the money from. This is what we've not been doing over the years, and I'm happy that we've been able to establish.
So, for sake of time, I'll ask you to touch on unemployment and then go to your conclusions. I think public debt is big. I don't want you to deal with that. So just do briefly on, because unemployment is a very key issue, which is, so please move to the next slide.
Yes.
The next slide, please. Unemployment, and then you give us your conclusion remarks. Yes. We are out of.
Okay, thank you very much. And so one issue that we all spoke about is high unemployment, youth unemployment, and so on. So in 2025, thanks to NASA's Card Service, we have data up to the 3rd quarter of last year. And if you look at the data and you analyze it, about 1.08 million employment were created. 1.08 million employment, you can call it jobs, were created within that period. At the same time, unemployment also inched up a bit in terms of absolute numbers by 22,900, about 23,000. So you say that, but employment is increasing, unemployment is increasing. What it tells you is that, yes, we're able to create about 1.1 million jobs, but it was not enough to be able to absorb all the people in the labor market. Significant it was, but at least it could have been better. But $1.1 million, if we are able to consistently do that, that is good. And most of them came from the informal side of it. So to be able to know whether we did well, we have to look at what we call the absorption rate, how the economy has been able to absorb in terms of employment. So in 2024, the absorption rate was 61%. Now it went to 65%. So it means that government did well in terms of employment generation. So then it should reflect on unemployment. So you see that unemployment also slowed down. Now 13.7%, the average in 2005 for 3 quarters is 12.8%. So 15 and above, everybody, unemployment rate on average over the year 12.8%, which is quite good. But if you look at it from the youth side, especially youth between 15 and 24, the unemployment rate inched a bit, 31.4% to 2.5%. What this tells you is that even though employment were created, but it benefited the adults. It didn't benefit young people between 15 and 24. So that gives you an idea as to how government should position itself when employment are being created. Government must be deliberate, target the young people so that they can also benefit. And they are not able to benefit as much as the adults because they are, the young people between 15 and 24, they are new labor market entrants. They have just finished SSS or finished the university and they are entering the labor market. They don't have that kind of experience. They don't have so many things. So when it comes to absorbing it, using the market forces, they are going to suffer. So government should target it. In as much as some jobs were created over the year, government must be intentional.
So I'm going to give you a minute to give me your 5 bullet point conclusions, just to summarize what you've said so far.
So what I have summarized is that the last year, 2025, have been good in terms of macro stability. There's no question about that. But we shouldn't jubilate. We shouldn't jubilate because managing an economy is like managing the health of individual. I equate inflation to hypertension, and then I equate unemployment to diabetes. These two move together. And if you are hypertensive or you are diabetic, you are supposed to take medication. And the medication must be consistent. So macro stability is not an end in itself. Government must continue to be disciplined in terms of fiscal. The Bank of Ghana must continue to do what it's doing right, and what it didn't get right is to refine it so that we will continue to enjoy the stability. And long stability will be able to facilitate economic transformation.
Wow. Professor William Mahama is the Vice Chancellor of the Methodist University Ghana, and it's very clear he understands and knows his onions. So stability has been achieved. We shouldn't rejoice yet. Inflation is like hypertension. Diabetes is like what? Unemployment. Let's not get carried away. This is John Mahama 2.0, an assessment of 1 year of the Mahama presidency from 6 thematic areas. We've given over 17 minutes, almost 20 minutes to the first speaker. I'm not sure the others will need that amount of time because they didn't bring any graphs at all. So what I want to do is to deal with the 2 economic sectors because agriculture and infrastructure derive from the economy. After that, I will deal with the social sectors of education and environment, and I'll end with governance because governance underlines everything. So this is the plan I have. So I don't know whether, David, you want to go next because you are dealing with infrastructure, which is what a lot of people call for. It's one of the tangible evidences that the government is performing well. So, David, thank you for joining us. And what are your own reflections on 1 year of the Mahama government from an infrastructure perspective?
Okay, thank you, Bernard. Good morning to your viewers. I will keep it short.
Yes.
But I think we need to define what infrastructure is.
Yes.
Because when I listen to your programs, especially the radio, it tends to be restricted to roads.
A lot of times.
Yeah. So I want to discuss the spectrum before, the scope before I give my assessment, as it were.
Good.
So when we talk about infrastructure, to put it in layman's language, it is simply everything which is part of the physical things we need in order for society to function.
Okay.
And just to illustrate, you definitely came from home today. I hope you didn't sleep in the office. But the home or the house in which you live itself is infrastructure.
Yeah.
You came by road, hopefully, and that is infrastructure. You go here, you want to do some program to your audience, you are sitting in an infrastructure. But to do that, you need power, which is transmitted by some generation station, which is infrastructure, transmission, which is infrastructure, and the distribution, which is infrastructure. The soft part is the light you see. Then to communicate, you need some internet on your phone, which also is infrastructure. Even the Wi-Fi you receive is being transmitted as a result of some repeater station and on and on and on. If we decide to drink the water that you have served us, it came from some receptacle, which is infrastructure. So it's quite pervasive, and we tend to limit it.
True.
Now, the important way for me, the way I assess it is first to look at what was required, and 2, what did he say he would do, and 3, what did the people say they want.
Let's take one by one. What was required?
Yes.
What did he say he would do?
Yes, and what did the people ask him to do? That's the only way. Otherwise, there must be a benchmark based upon which I'm assessing. Now, what was required? What was required has nothing to do with what he said he would do or what the people say he would do. What was required in a situation where we had come from a DDEP situation, an IMF situation with all the chaos that was around, which is what Prof has already elaborated. For me, any good manager will tell you that in such a situation, the first thing you need to do is to stop the deterioration. Now, what was deteriorating that he needed to stop? Let's give a couple of examples. One is the road sector. So if the road is deteriorating, what has been put in place to ensure that the deterioration is stopped? And I think there are a lot of examples which has come on your station. I believe during the discussion going on, we can cite a lot of those examples. Quite a lot of road projects planned, but this is stage one. Stopping deterioration doesn't mean resting on your oars. Now let's go to another sector where deterioration ought to be stopped. The most pervasive, which I didn't hear Prof talk about, which is the debt, the energy sector debt.
I asked him to jump the public debt because of time. He had prepared for
Huge one. It's been perennial. It's been with us since about 2007, thereabouts. At times it appears to go, then it comes back and it increases, fluctuating similar to the graphs Prof showed. I did hear, I've been monitoring that sector, I must say, I have clients in that sector. But I did hear, I think yesterday or a couple of days ago, that as of December 31st, 1.4 billion of that debt has been paid. And I'm aware that there's been an arrangement to pay this debt down over a period. And if I follow what is being done, it appears they are even ahead of schedule in the payment. That's a significant attempt to stop deterioration. And that's quite very important. Another example to give is in terms of promise to supply students accommodation. I'm sure you've heard about 10,000 hostel for University of Ghana as an example, just to give one. Again, where you have a university which says it has got 40,000 shortage in student accommodation, attempting to supply a quarter of it in year one, even though it has not been achieved, is an attempt to stop deterioration. And it's by these that I measure. Let's take power sector apart from the payment. Dumso, I don't know whether it has returned, it was Dumsi. You remember just before the election, there was all that issue as to whether there should be a timetable or there shouldn't be a timetable. It's by this I measure people. To the best of my knowledge, from where I stay and where I work, there has been a large amount of stability. And again, how was the power debt paid? It appears it's a simple transparency to see what goes into ECG, what the cash flow mechanism is like, and how we're able to collect and, as it were, apply a method that we have always talked about but have never implemented. Again, that's a good example of an attempt to stop deterioration. So I take it that if I score from roads, from accommodation for students as an example, that's, I mean, a highly good score performance in that angle. But I've talked about what he had to do. Now let's deal with what he said he would do.
Okay.
And what he said he would do quickly is, for me, summarized in two main issues. One is the 24-hour economy. And the reason I'm bringing in is that it has got an infrastructure component, which relates to the voter corridor, etc. The other one emanates from his 120-day promise. But that 120-day promise, the main part that relates to infrastructure for me has to do with the National Economic Dialogue, which was done.
Okay.
Now, that National Economic Dialogue had a stream on infrastructure. I think you were there, I was there. I had the privilege to deliver the National Infrastructure discussion, or lead that discussion. There were a lot of recommendations which were made, and what I have done is to try and track that. I've seen those which have entered the budget and those which have not. It seems to me the ones which entered the budget were more of trying to, again, address deterioration. The major ones which should be in the long term, and for any manager, once you stop deterioration, you should now move to structural changes and then to take advantage. So I assume you haven't read those stages yet. So the types which came into that plan, for example, introducing duct and crossings in road construction so that there will be a centralized way of channeling the kind of things like fiber, like pipelines, so that we don't need to be crossing the roads. That has been introduced by the Ministry of Roads. So I think that is quite commendable as an example of what. But there are certain things which have not been seen yet. Now let me deal with the big push part. because that part happens to coincide with what the people say he should do.
And what he said he would do.
Yes, which is in the National Economic Dialogue, and what he said he would do. The 24-hour document has been launched. What I have not yet seen is the water corridor in particular, which is a major, in my view, economic activity, which is infrastructure based, which can create a multiplier effect because you link the railway, the Mpakadan Railway, to fluvial transport, which actually will cut cost of transportation in the Sahel region by about 80% if implemented. And again, I will assume that belongs to stage 2. And the other thing that I think, and I will end with that, is we need to, without resting on our OS, take advantage of the success that has been achieved in year 1 to actually now make significant structural changes and move to what takes us to the future. I'll give you an example. If I take a look at Ghana's ranking in terms of power, cost of power to industry, and I don't want to talk about homes. We like to beat our chest about being one of the cheapest when it comes to home. But when it comes to industry, we are actually number 15 in Africa.
Wow.
Where Ethiopia, for example, who we are competing with, is number 2. What do I mean by that? No nation can industrialize if it is selling power to industry at more than 0.6 cents per kilowatt hour to industry. So whereas we are above that, the next stage of structural change is how to use Ghana's advantage and drive a power hub. Once you have actually now stabilized the payment, how do you encourage more power producers to locate here? How do you encourage those already producing to increase generation? How do you ensure that you make the basic structural changes, for example, not being responsible for the purchase of fuel, not ensuring that people are not using purchase of fuel as a way to find money into their pockets? These were rumors as to the reason why ECG had all those challenges it had. These are major things to do, and the goal should be to drive the cost of power to industry down. Once you do that, job creation will then be able to overtake the chart that Prof was talking about. This is how I will assess. So I think for year 1, stopping deterioration, the score is very high. But this is the time now you test whether your success can lead to success or it leads to complacency.
Wow. David Ofosu-Dorte on infrastructure, brilliant definition of infrastructure with the broad areas, 3 areas around what ought to be done, what he said he would do, and what we say we want, analyzing it in terms of what has been achieved and what the challenges. Let's stay with the economic sector and come to agriculture. Professor Roger Canton, thank you for being here. What are your initial assessments on 1 year of Mahama in the second term?
Okay, thank you, Bernard Avle, and also welcome to my fellow panelists, and then also your brilliant students and others who are here, and your colleagues to join us to assess what His Excellency John Dramani Mahama have been able to achieve in his year 1. First of all, I would like to say a little bit about what agriculture is, the essence, and then dovetail into what currently, where we were, and then what we are currently experiencing. Briefly, if you ask me to define agriculture, like I was taught agricultural science in one of the best schools in Africa, Navrango Secondary School, agriculture simply means the production of crops and animals. And animals is a larger, that is, we have got larger ruminants, cattle and others, smaller ruminants and all that you have. Now, when you come to where I come from, there is agricultural science. What does that mean? Agricultural science, simply put, is the application of scientific principles to agriculture with a view to enhancing production, productivity, profitability, and efficiency. Now, if you go back into history, the first enterprise or challenge our Creator God gave us when Adam and Eve deviated from what they were supposed, their primary goal in the Garden of Eden, they were told not to eat a forbidden fruit. which they, man is quite stubborn. They refuse and they eat. And for that matter, the punishment was that man will till the land. So agriculture is divine. It's something that as a result of disobedience, we were some sort of told that, look, if you disobey, this is what you get. Just like every responsible parent. If my son does wrong, there are punitive things he knows he will go through so as to keep him in line. So from there, we were moved to now come out and till the land. So it's the first profession or work that man had after creation. Then 3, I want us to look at agriculture beyond just food. When you talk of agriculture, people are just talking of chop, what you will go and eat and breakfast, lunch, and supper or dinner. But agriculture goes beyond that. In fact, livelihoods is an agrarian issue. National security, huge, it has serious agricultural implications. During His Excellency John Ajekum Kufuor's first term, 2 governments in West Africa were overthrown within days because of price hikes of major staples of grain, specifically maize and then rice. Niger, his counterpart in Niger, was overthrown because the prices of broken rice had quadrupled and government became handicapped and there was nothing they could do. So government threw their hands into the air. And as you know, usually when there is confusion, those who have the power to control confusion are the military. So when you cause confusion, you are supporting the military to come in. So the military had to come in and then get him out. The following week, the Malian president, because of the same thing, because office du Niger, where their buffer stocks and their huge production or virtually also collapsed. So prices, in fact, the average Malian was priced out. They could not. So what do? And there is a saying that a hungry man is an angry person. So they will what? Also do whatever it takes. Then if you go even into the biblical story, yes, 2 Kings, where people that were deformed were kept outside the Israeli or the Jewish.
You have established the basis of agric and also the importance in livelihood. So I want you to move into the assessment.
Yes. So for the assessment, I will say agriculture, just like my brother said earlier, the economy, actually have what we call the drift effect. And by the drift effect, it means, carry over from the previous government, whatever have been done, certainly have implications for where John Mahama started. You recall in 2023, we encountered a dry spell, which was variable, even in the north, within districts and regions. The effects weren't uniform. You move from one location where the rains are not so bad to another few kilometers when the rains are quite good. So government was a little bit worried, and for that matter, they foresaw or anticipated there could be food shortages. So government have to make arrangements to bring in food so that they can make up for any losses that may come up. Now, the prices of food in Ghana currently are far lower, in fact, maize, far lower than the world global maize price. In fact, to be specific, in my own area, where I come from, I'm Mississauga, if you go to the Sisala area, where we are told we are the best producers of quality global maize, and that is a fact. by the immediate past minister, Honorable Dr. Brian Achampon. That is a fact. The evidence is there, you know. But a bag of maize, 100 kilograms, is selling at a paltry, in fact, it started 220 Ghana cedis. What is 220 Ghana cedis in dollar terms? It drifted up to around 250. As I talk today, you will be lucky to have maize to go for 280 Ghana cedis. It's still dangling between 240, 250 in Tumu, the Sala area, which is so bad. But then, in contrast, fertilizer, the best brand, a brand, that's Yara, was going for 550 to 590. So it tells you that you may need to sell 3 bags of maize
to get one bag of fertilizer,
which doesn't make sense. But people sit in Accra here and they are happy jumping. When I talk, they say, well, we want the food prices to be good so that we'll... What of the one who is producing that food?
So you want us to balance production
exactly
with the livelihood of the farmer,
yes,
so that there's an optimal price
yes,
that people can afford,
yes,
but can also give the farmer the livelihood to keep producing.
Of course.
So in your assessment of the government, food prices are too low for the farmer.
Exactly.
That's your first point.
Yes. Number 2, also even the market is not even assured. Even though farmers, I'm told there was a farmer who carried about 50 bags to Tumu to sell and couldn't even get the 280, so he had to carry them back. What a conundrum. The price is even not good. You suffer and bring it to a market area to sell, and you never get it sold.
So the market is also a problem.
In fact, it's the number 1 problem now. I will
so production is high,
yes,
prices are low,
exactly,
markets are not...
Virtually, we don't talk about the market itself. You recall, in the eastern region, I think, was it in April, there was this MP who visited around, I've forgotten the name, was Afsina, for one of those communities, and they had a glut of tomatoes.
Asante Akim.
Asante Akim. The MP literally went on, I think he was having a tour of the constituency, and then stumbled upon that. And the MP plus the farmers, I saw it from your own channel, Citi, where the MP was virtually begging the president to try and intervene so that they will buy the produce. So if Sasala farmers will have to call my MP to also come and beg John Mahama to get them to come and buy, and how often can he be doing that? So clearly it tells you that there is a very big problem when it comes to marketing, and that is the cracks.
So you've highlighted 2 main issues, the low prices and the lack of markets.
Yes.
Now,
then,
what's your third point? Because I want you to come to a conclusion around how you're assessing the agri sector in just 1 year.
Yes. In terms of research, it's another area which dovetails into production and to value addition. In terms of production, we do not have a problem because it has been proven for over a decade consistently that, take maize for example, unless of course there is a flood or a disease like we had the fall army when around I think during the Akufo-Addo first time, we had some fall army, a strange worm that we've not had before. It's because it's not native to West Africa. And in fact, some farmers lost totally out. And that brought a little bit of a challenge. If not, we do not have problems, particularly with maize. Right? But coming down back to the president, what he said he will do and what he has done, I think so far so good. Because the president has come out with the flagship project, that is Feed Ghana project, which I have here with me, and also the 24-hour economy, I have that with me here. If you look at it generally, 4 key things that they have pledged to do or planned or promised to do are on track. In fact, either have been initiated or they have even gone deeper into achieving
so
them.
mention those 4 for us quickly.
Yes. One is, they call it Nkoko Nkete. Under that project, the president promised about 11 million day-old chicks to farmers, ordinary farmers. In fact, they are targeting 500 farm households across all the 275 constituencies. As we talk, Ashanti region, they have Ashanti region and Bunu region, the project have started. They have delivered these to these farm households, whilst they are waiting that this year they will continue with the remaining districts.
So Ngongo is on track. What's the second one?
Then the second one also have to do with the farm banks, which the government talked about. And the farm banks, what the government, they say they want to do is they will go and acquire lands. You know, one of the challenges we have in this country, particularly if you belong to the youth or women, land is an issue. In fact, land tenure is one of the most debilitating things that this country has. And that's why some of us were asking, when Rawlings was the president, that was a very good opportunity to nationalize all lands so that they become state property, just like it has been done in Zimbabwe and other areas. And South Africa, I think that is quite very
So
important.
the farm banks, have they been done?
Well, they have started now. I'm told they have gone to some of the communities, the regions, talking to chiefs, opinion leaders, and the like. In fact, I just saw the Minister for Industries, Agribusiness, and Trade. She went to the Oti region and acquired 60,000 hectares of land for ginger production. That is fine.
Good.
And I'm told they have been able to map out potential places. And
let's do the third
also
point.
The third one has to do with sites for the sites for farmer service centers, which is also very good. In fact, a Champions Operation Feed Yourself, that was the moving spirit that did everything. Under the farmer service company, service centers, it's a one-stop shop. In that case, we have right from seed, which is the number one input in agriculture, through farm machinery, simple handheld tools, equipment, tractors, combine harvesters, extension services, storage facilities, and the like. Mm-hmm. That also they have identified those potential areas that they will be working on. And then the last was this mechanization centers also.
Wonderful.
The government promised 50 of them across the country. I'm told they have also been able to target those regions or districts that will come under that. I think that is also something we can say they have done well.
Thank you very much. So basically, the government has started well so far, so good on agriculture. The Feed Ghana, you think is a great plan, and you've mentioned the four things: farm banks, farmer service centers, and mechanization. All seem to have started well. This is the Roundtable Discussion coming to you live on 97.3 Citi FM and ChannelOne Television, where we're doing a thematic assessment of the Mahama presidency after 1 year. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll deal with two other sectors, the environmental sector and the education sector, and then the governance sector is what will open us up to their discussion. So far, we've heard from Professor William Babwating, who's given us almost 20 minutes on the economy. We had Mr. David Ofosudote doing about 10 minutes on the infrastructure segment, and Professor Canton similarly on agriculture. Join us on your WhatsApp 053-9986-996. Join us on social media. This is the Roundtable Discussion coming to you live here in Accra.
The Sweetroot Secondary School's Wesco Alumni Association invites all alumni to its annual all-year groups Thanksgiving and Remembrance Service. There will be remembrance of the departed PACAs and also the launch of the 67th Speech and Prize Giving Day. The date, Sunday the 18th of January 2026. Time, it's 2 p.m. Venue, Cedar Mountain Assemblies of God Church, East Legon. Contact your year group president and register your attendance now. Semper Cum Optimus, always with the best.
Welcome to the Health Quarters Ghana, where medical science meets everyday life. Join Dr. Gideon Assan and the irrepressible Clemento Suarez as they tackle health issues.
My name is Dr. Gideon Assan. I have with me here my co-host, Clemento Suarez.
I knew how it felt anytime I started to feel the pain.
Whether it is hernia, breast cancer, cataracts, or infertility, the show brings together victims to share their real life stories and experts to debunk myths.
If you wear cotton supporter, and there be a pampers and a benwa or bosom. So you see, instead of it being raw egg, I done it because you already know.
Make a date with us every Sunday at 4 p.m. on ChannelOne TV. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and all social media platforms at Health Quarters Ghana.
Welcome back. This is John Mahama 2.0, a roundtable discussion on 6 thematic areas assessing the first year of the Mahama presidency's second term. My name is Ben Adavale, and I have 6 thematic experts. So far, we've heard from Professor William Boateng, who's given us his assessment of the economy. He says they've started well. We shouldn't rest on our oars. David Ovosu-Dorte on infrastructure, similar sentiment. It's a great start. Let's now move to structural change. We've heard from Professor Roger Canton, who also says so far so good, but some work needs to be done on market access and also on pricing for livelihoods. Let's turn our attention to, we call it mining and environment, but it's really environment, just that the mining discussion has be brought to the front and center, the environment. And Dr. Ekuya Odum, who is an environmental scientist. Doc, thanks for joining us. How do you assess the first year of the Mahama government from an environmental perspective?
Thank you, Mr. Avle, and then good afternoon to my fellow panelists and then to the audience as well.
Go ahead.
I think you've given me a very difficult task. You know, when it comes to the issue of illegal mining, it's quite sensitive. Before I delve into Galamsey, I will first of all start by trying to set the scene and then highlight some key environmental issues that Ghana face. I think we are all aware that Ghana generally has what we call has issues with environmental management, right? So currently we are confronted by 5 key environmental issues. You can talk about the issue of plastic pollution, climate change, illegal mining, biodiversity loss, and then land degradation. The reason why...
Hold on. Plastic pollution, climate change, illegal mining,
biodiversity loss.
Biodiversity loss.
And then land degradation.
Land degradation. So these are the 6 key problems, or 5?
The 5.
5 key problems.
So you also realize that when it comes to the issue of Galamsey, it's actually affecting 2 of these key issues, or Galamsey is sort of contributing to 2 of these key issues, which is the biodiversity loss and then the land degradation. So in terms of the regional scope of the impacts, currently I think about 14 out of our 60 regions is being heavily impacted by Galamsey activities. And then the impact of these Galamsey activities can be seen through the pollution of our water bodies. Health-wise, you talk about prevalence or increase in respiratory and some neurological diseases. I mean, we even see on our TVs instances that kids are born with all sort of, deformities as a result of pollution from these heavy metals, which is used during the Galamsey activities. So over the years, I mean, there's been a lot of effort by different governments in trying to, fight the situation. You can talk about Operation Galam Stop, Operation Halt 1 and 2. We have also Operation Vanguard. But you realize that most of these haven't been really effective due to political interference. And also the fact that there hasn't been extensive stakeholder consultation, trying to also involve the traditional councils, etc. I mean, a lot of issues with that regards. So I will then narrow down to what the government has done so far. When it comes to the Mahama administration, it's fair to say there has been some renewed intention in trying to fight the Galamsey issue, and also some appreciable visibility with the issue. So in terms of the Mahama administration, for me, I see 3 clear approaches. They are combining the military approach. They are also combining legal reforms as well as evidence-based. And for me as a scientist, I'm very much happy when it comes to, trying to use evidence to solve a problem. Because clearly, the first step in trying to resolve an issue is to ask why. And then based on that, you try to understand what are the drivers, why are people doing what they do, etc. So in terms of the military approach, you can talk about the institutionalization and then the operationalization of what they call NIMOS, which is the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. I think that was inaugurated somewhere June of 2025, and it's been housed at the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources, and they collaborate with the Ghana Police and then Armed Forces. So since the inception of the NIMOS, there's been some arrests. I think currently it sits around approximately 1,500, which also has a mix of foreign nationals. And then in terms of achievements, there's been destruction of some Galamsey infrastructure. There's been seizures. There's been, as I mentioned earlier, arrests and all that. And I'll also move on to, in terms of the legal reforms, what has been done. Just recently, beginning of this year, the president repealed the LI 2462, which initially was allowing some level of mining within the forest and reserve. So since the revocation of that LI, there has been a ban on any form of mining within the forest reserve. And then statistics is also showing that there has been about a reduction of about 80% threats on the forest reserves. About 9 of the forest reserves has also been protected. And also the mandate for the Forest Commission has been fully instated now. So I move on to evidence-based. So the government commissioned a ministerial committee to try and then develop a blueprint for sustainable mining. And then based on that, the committee were able to, do extensive stakeholder, try to understand what some of the drivers, etc. And then they've been able to come up with very good recommendations on how to move things forward. We can also talk about the fact that I think recently the government made an effort in trying to regulate the permit regime for the importation of excavators into the country. So clearly we can see there have been some efforts. So I'm just going to also give a high-level assessment in terms of trying to look at the political will, the consistency, and also the enforcement capacity so far. So in terms of the political will and consistency, clearly we've seen that there's been some efforts, through the various initiatives that I mentioned. However, I think there's room for improvement because, especially with the establishment of the NIMOS, the catch and release is not enough. We need prosecution of these perpetrators, right? And for me, I think it's more important that we shift from more the initiative-driven approach and try and then give these institutions the autonomy. We need to institutionalize the fights, okay, so that they are able to, take or bring people to book or justice. And then once we're able to institutionalize the fight, whatever measures we have in place will be able to, withstand all political cycles, different, elite influences, and whatever economic trade-offs that might arise in the future. And then on the, another thing that I think will also be very good is the NIMOS is a very good initiative, but they need some level of permanent position in those heavily mined Galamsey areas, right? It shouldn't be a one-off, task force event, because you realize that by the time they even get to those sites, most of them have even already moved. So I think having a permanent positioning in those areas would try and then put them into check. And in terms of the enforcement capacity, right? Obviously, government has made some efforts. I think recently he even donated some motorbikes, cars, etc. So that in itself is good. There's been some training, etc. But then they still need to increase the human resource capacity. Because you realize that usually when they go out in the field, they're always outnumbered. And most of these guys engaged in the illegal mining activities, you see them wield high military grade ammunitions and then equipment. So it's also important that when they are sending these task force out there, they also go very kind of prepared. So I think I'll just wrap up by reflecting on a personal experience. So somewhere within last year, I did some work in one of the Galamsey prone areas. And then I engaged one of them. I just wanted to understand, why they do what they do. And the man said, Madam, it's actually the community people who are sort of enabling us because they've adapted their livelihood, their economic activities to suit whatever they are engaged in. So you realize that most of the time, before even the task force get to them, they would call and then give them a tip or warn them off. So this brings me to the fact that, when you are trying to solve this issue, it's not like a quick fix. Yeah, the responsibility lies on, all of us.
Wonderful.
Okay. Clearly, for me, the way forward is that we need more of, aggressive environmental campaigning, a lot of civic education, because there should be that kind of behavioral mindset change amongst all of us. And I think I'll take us back to, somewhere early 2000 or so. There was campaign on, indiscriminate urination and all that. It really stuck to people. So I think we are at a point now that we need to be very aggressive.
Aggressive civic engagement.
Exactly.
To change the mindset of the population.
We need to.
Around environmental preservation.
Wonderful. And then also it's very important that, I think I've also mentioned that point earlier on, government needs to sort of enforce or give these relevant state institutions like your EPA, your Water Resource Commission, etc. You need to, enforce, equip them, and give them the autonomy to be able to, fight the Galamsey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow. We are learning a lot today. Dr. Ekwe has given us 5 areas to assess the environment, including climate change, biodiversity loss, illegal mining, plastic pollution, and the rest of it. She analyzes the environment, the Galamsey fights from the military approach, the legal reforms approach, and the evidence-based approach. And she says political will seems to be there, but institutionalize the fight, give autonomy to the agencies, and engage citizens so they can work. So there's a lot of work to be done. Everybody's saying, you started well, you need to do more. Let's come to education. Kofi Asare, thank you so much for joining us. What are your thoughts on 1 year of Mahama as far as education is concerned? Let's put our hands together for Kofi Asare. Go ahead.
Well, it's already 1 year, right?
We're here a few months ago.
Yeah, 120 days.
Yeah.
Or 100 days. 120 days, right?
120 days.
Okay. Well, the NDC had a very audacious manifesto for education. Indeed, they had about 140 promises in the sector.
140 promises?
Yeah, and it would be unfair if I attempt to
mention all of them,
to review their performance in respect of the 140, because we've done year 1. And they will choose which ones to start with and which ones to end with. But having done this business for over 20 years, Edward, we have a fair idea about what we expect of governments in their inception years. And so we look at the manifesto, what they want to achieve, and then also we look at it within the context of what we expect of a new government in the inception year in Ghana. So I'll start by saying that there are 5 areas that we normally review or appraise government performance in education. In an inception year, the first thing is that we want to see the government's ability to transition its manifesto into policies and mainstream those policies into existing sector plans and frameworks, so that we don't have a government that comes throwing away existing policies and then starting everything afresh. and then everything looking as if we are starting everything afresh. So that's one key thing, how you mainstream, transition your manifesto to policy, and then mainstream them to education. We've seen the government successfully roll out a new education sector medium-term development plan for 2026 to 2029. The previous one was from 2021 to 2025. It ended, and so the transition has been smooth. Within the education strategic plan 2018 to 2030, and so that's what we want to see, continuity in policy implementation within the framework. So that is great. We've also seen a good attempt by the government to develop policies out of its manifestos. We've seen key big ticket policies like the no fee stress, free tertiary for PWDs, sanitary towels for girls in schools. We've seen many of these, big tickets in their manifestos being developed into policies and being implemented. And so in terms of transitioning from manifesto to policy within the existing framework, there's been good progress.
Good.
We also see within that context a new government that is amenable to continuing what it came to meet.
Okay.
We haven't seen some of the things we were not expecting, truncating policies because of ministers, etc.
Okay.
And so to the extent that policy continuity has been prioritized, that for me is a significant gain in the first pillar.
Good.
The last one in that pillar is in the area of inclusive governance. The process for rolling out its policies or plans has been significantly inclusive. We saw a National Education Forum being constituted, stakeholders across the country, parents, marketmen, everyone bringing their opinions on board in respect of how education policy should be shaped and pursued. So inclusive governance, has been great. The second pillar is financing. Financing is key because everything in their manifesto and every policy priority of the education strategic plan is about cash. The first, I think the first budget of the government gave significant hope to the stakeholder community that it was in for education as well. We saw 42 billion allocated to education, or the highest ever since. Most importantly, it was a 30% increase, in nominal terms from the 2024 allocation of 32. And in real terms too, because of the considerable stronger macro-fiscals this year, that's the highest in real terms as well. And so that was a good signal. 15% plus share of education of the national budget. Of course, within the lowest threshold of the international financial benchmarks, not the best, but at least we missed that mark in the last 2 years before the government came. And so that's for us.
So financing, good start.
Budgeting, yes. For basic education, we saw 22% of that allocation going to basic. That was the highest for basic in 4 years. And then we saw some significant allocations in the budget to inclusive education. We saw some good moves in financing. We saw the government put to rest the issue about sustainable financing for free senior high school, amending the Get Fund Act and making Get Fund the sole financier of free senior high school, and committing similar significant amounts to inclusive education through the Get Fund Act. And that, for me, are also significant accomplishment that we must acknowledge. So financing, we've been good on budgets. The third is infrastructure. The third pillar is infrastructure. Without infrastructure, there can't be equitable access. Equitable access is a key denominator of success. We, at the basic level, we've been here in the past 8-10 years discussing infrastructure, schools under trees, desk deficit, etc. So the government gave a good signal of its intention to address the desk deficit. There was a deficit of over 1 million desks in basic schools prior to 2024. And the government allocated about 700 million through the DACF for the procurement of desks. That amount was, in our estimation, enough to solve the problem. And then another 700 or so million equivalent, about 700 or so million for the construction of new basic schools, one new KG, one new primary, one new junior high schools in every district. And so that was a good statement for infrastructure for us, for basic education, because we've seen that provision being made in both 2025 and 2026 budgets. The meaning is that in 2 years, if we follow through, we would have been building the number of schools, the same number of schools that we built in about 6 years, within 2 years, at the basic level where infrastructure deficit is highest. So that for me has been significant in the infrastructure space. At the secondary level, we've seen very little activity in infrastructure because a lot of the year was spent looking for money to invest in senior high school infrastructure expansion to end double track. The government has just secured a $200 million World Bank facility for that purpose, but that wouldn't count for 2025. Tertiary, we saw very little activity within the infrastructure space.
Okay.
The last pillar is access and quality. The government has not done too well in the area of equitable access, especially within the spheres of transition. Now, basic secondary transition, we are not doing too well. Baseline, by 2024, about 90% of BC candidates that passed or that qualified to senior high school were able to transit to senior high school in 2024, by December 2024. As we speak, by end of 2025, only 80% of a BC candidate that qualified for senior high school had been enrolled, and that's 80%. It means that 20% were yet to enroll. 20% of those who qualified for placement were yet to enroll. There were issues with school placement. We discussed it, etc. I'm not too sure the extent of the blame that should be given to school placements and the extent of the blame that should be given to inadequate infrastructure to absorb the 580K that qualify for placement. But that's, so we're not doing too good on equitable access, especially basic secondary transition by December. At the tertiary level too, the picture didn't look too good because of the WASI result, right? And so the data we are seeing and projecting is that we are likely to drop tertiary, secondary tertiary transition by about 10 percentage points compared to 2024's transition rate. We are likely to have about 150K.
Are these transition problems lack of money to pay fees or lack of space to get the people?
The tertiary one is primarily because of the 15% plus dip in core maths performance.
So the WASI results?
Yes, so we are likely to see maximum 155,000 students enrolling instead of 200,000 that enrolled in 2024 in all tertiary institutions, public, private. And that's about 10% dip, because we are doing about 500K secondary school graduates annually. So transition, basic, secondary, secondary, tertiary, by end of year, if it gets look good. The academic year hasn't ended yet. Admissions may still be going on, but as of end of year, 31st, we were not doing too good on in those areas.
Wonderful.
I'll finally talk about access at the basic level. Preliminary data we collected from 14 districts indicate that about 2 to 2.5% increase in gross enrollment at KG. And so that's consistent with the trend, the population growth and all that. So in conclusion, I say that in year one, the government has given hope. That it has a plan for education. It's indicated a strong commitment to investing in the sector. And so there have been some challenges with budget credibility. I didn't mention budget credibility. DACF was in arrears of 2 quarters by end of December 2026. And so the furniture that was supposed to be procured has still not been procured because, among others, because of procurement delays occasioned by many other things, including DACF being in arrears. We are happy to know that infrastructure, the school buildings are progressing in many of the districts that we checked, but the infrastructure did not commence in 2025. And so budget credibility requires a lot of improvement to give a true meaning to allocations.
Wow. Very interesting indeed. So you gave us 5 areas, but I think it was 4. Transitioning manifesto to policy, good progress. Financing, good on budget, although budget credibility with asterisks. Infrastructure, fair for basic, very little for secondary and tertiary. Access and quality is where the real challenges are, which you've highlighted. Let's end this first round with good governance. Let's bring in Mary. Ada, what are your thoughts on 1 year of Mahama in terms of good governance? Take it up.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I believe without a doubt at all that this scoring perhaps it's one that we cannot say it's not good. It's just a first year, for instance, so you cannot say government is not doing well when you've seen a lot of good economic indicators going very well, educational sector, the environment, and others speaking so nicely. And you know governance runs across each and every one of these sectors. For us, it is our explicit opinion that this government, when you look at the subject matter of good governance, benching them on the key indicators, you're talking about accountability, transparency, and all the other indicators, including inclusiveness, by the government's reset agenda and its manifesto. We cannot fault them at all for the work they've done. I think we mentioned same in the 120-day analysis that government had done its best in scoring. At the time we were ticking the boxes. Now we've had some time to also look at more of the issues that have been going on. So on accountability, you would realize the NDC manifesto spoke about things they would do to ensure that government is more accountable to the people. And one of them was ensuring that appointees of the public sector do their asset declaration on time. We saw a non-compliance even within the 120 days, which was rectified because the president had given a warning. Later in the selection of the MMDCEs, he also clearly indicated that they should go and do same. Unfortunately, perhaps you should do an assessment to see if that was done. But that's one area on accountability that I believe, without a doubt, the government tried as much as possible to work to respond to the demands of the people. Let me add that the Ghana Statistical Service did a governance wave report, 1 and 2, one in late 2024, and the second one, which we did in collaboration with them, scores up to half year. And it shows that the people believe that government is more responsive to their demands than was in the previous wave, the wave 1. So that clearly tells you that citizens believe that government is more responsive, and it was more than 30% increase in that. So it means that's significant for us. Again, if you look at the accountability, let me take what the Attorney General is doing currently on his work. You realize he's there in the public giving some information on what is happening within his sector. The OSP, or the Office of the Special Prosecutor, has also been seen doing same with but that's mandatory anyway. It's a 6-month period report to tell the people of Ghana what they are doing as an institution. But the novelty is what the Attorney General is doing. For accountability, it is good for us. But as to whether it's the best approach he's using, we all have to interrogate that further. When you take anti-corruption, governments indicated that they were going to put in place both policy, we have legislations, and also practice measures, which they clearly put in place. And in the year 1, let me start from the legal processes. One is the fact that they want to have a law that brings all anti-corruption laws together. And so the Corrupt Offences Act. They also mentioned that they wanted to have a law that mandates public officers to give information about themselves, the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which, let me say, has been in the works for a very long time, since 2013. I think it's beginning to compete with the RTI. It's becoming the longest draft act. And it speaks to the issues around conduct of public officers. General conduct, asset declaration, to empower us to be able to say that public officers are not just declaring their assets. Those assets should be verified, and those assets should be published. I would come to some developments that have happened which is supporting this cause. Then we have the issue of conflict of interest, which is not criminalized, and you know that if an action or if an act is not criminalized, it's difficult to take anyone on for it. So what has happened within this regime, government is taking on a policy. I don't know if you know about the NACAP. NACAP 1 was 2014 to 2020, 2015 to 2024. And that was the government's policy at the time, shaped and spearheaded by Mahama Administration 1. That sought to give us a framework within which we all fight corruption in country, from the presidency to the least of us in the community like myself. Fortunately, we finished implementing in 2024 and an evaluation was done. This government, Mahama 2, has taken it on, and the process of the development of NACAP 2, which is called NICAP now, has been very inclusive, and as Kofi spoke to, the approach in engaging, bringing on board other stakeholders has been one of the key aspects of perhaps scoring governments well when it comes to governance, anti-corruption. There was a launch of a committee that was set up, and we have gone through the development of the national policy that is supposed to help us to fight corruption. And Bernard, I must say that this 5-year framework, if it is implemented, that's our challenge. Now it's being finalized, it will go to cabinet and then go to parliament for adoption. If we all put our energies to ensuring that we implement the NICAP, that's the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Plan, meaning now we have added the issue of ethics. Exactly. If we all put our energies to implementing, because it goes from the legal and where all the things I've spoken to are embedded, and it brought on board experts to ensure that we are putting in place what constitutes good practice from across the globe. So we have all the laws that will help us shaping the laws into one Corrupt Practices Act, bringing on board all the others, witness protection and others to firm this up. Then we go into other policies that will support the fight against corruption. And NICAP is fantastic. It's a draft now. So let's say that if we get it implemented, it would be very good. And in the governance space too, I believe one of the very fundamental things apart from NICAP is the Constitutional Review Commission's work, which we cannot speak about governance without speaking to. The novel recommendations that have been made, and then also the President's response to the presentation was very positive. Even though we haven't seen the government white paper, but the commitment that there would be an implementation committee already is a good signal. And it means that all of us, civil society, the media, should continue to follow this process to ensure that all the recommendations that have been put in place are working and working for our good. In anti-corruption, again, we saw the manifesto talk about oral. And I believe at a point, people were thinking oral was the only thing government was going to do in the fight against corruption. There was an oral committee. After the oral committee, there was the handing over of more than 2,000 cases that were reported to them, where they assessed to have more than 20 billion cedis if they were recovered. But what we know for sure that is happening is the fact that the Attorney General's office is currently doing some very good. They've started some investigations, and in some cases, many of the cases are in court now. And that's a good signal. One of the things we need to all begin to interrogate, however, is the fact that we will not get it as easy as we want or as expeditiously as we want, because the corrupt find a way of protecting themselves. They are able to engage the biggest lawyers, the most competent. And if you heard the Attorney General speaking on the issue of the former finance minister, he is engaged a former Attorney General of the U.S., a former minister also of Afghanistan who is in the U.S. So it means in some of these cases, it's difficult. Government would want to do it as quickly as they want, but the process would not be as quick as we want to see it. So oral is there. Then I would also want to talk about the rule of law. There have been mixed signals. One of the mixed signals would have to do with the way the Chief Justice was pushed out. And that is one we need to pay attention to. I'm not saying people should not be let go if they do the wrong things, but when there is the perception that this person is pushed out because they have leanings towards this and that, then it becomes difficult. But I must also say that the posturing of the opposition on the issue didn't also serve the interests of the issue at all. And maybe in the future and I think the Constitutional Review Committee has taken that into account and made some very good recommendations to ensure that if we get that, we will not do. Bernard, let me end by saying that this government has acted on the commitment to be inclusive. One of the things that happened recently is the participation in COPS 11. That's the Conference of State Parties when it comes to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Hitherto, it's just government, it's state parties. So they go, they come back. This time around, 2 civil society actors were included. I went to Qatar, this time as part of the government's delegation. That is not to say government paid for me. No, I paid. I paid and went on my own. Yes, the recognition that civil society is part of the process is a beautiful thing. And I hope that whoever takes over from this government would continue, or this process would continue on an annual basis. That's good. Because we brought on board our capacity. We were advocating for a resolution on party financing. And for that matter, Transparency International wanted to be part of the processes of the discourse. And usually it's only government that is allowed in those informal discussions. But when we're added to the government delegations, we're also able to have access to the whole infrastructure. And that is good. And through our inputs, we got the resolution passed. And I believe that going forward, this is also a very good signal that government wants to fight corruption. Because if we have co-sponsored, including Norway and others, to get that resolution on party financing passed, then it means at the local level or here in Ghana, we must make sure that all the issues of we've been talking about the challenges, including the parties are those who are supposed to be rendering accounts to the Electoral Commission and not the candidates. The resolution talks about parties, the candidates, and everybody. So I believe, let me end here, and then when there are more questions, we'll talk about them.
Wonderful. This is the Roundtable Discussion, John Mahama 2.0, thematic assessment of the first year of the final term of John Dramani Mahama. We just listened to Mary Ada, Transparency International, on good governance. She mentions accountability, transparency, inclusiveness, a few things that have happened. The good governance tracker from the Ghana Statistical Service. The NACAP has become NICAP and is looking great. Constitutional review has started. We must follow through. Oral seems to have sent the right signals. Rule of law sent mixed signals. All in all, a positive outlook. Let's put our hands together for the panel one more time. Now, before we turn our attention to our audience, we have students. Students, are you there? I hope you have some questions and some comments. We have students from UNIMAC, GIJ, and also the academic Citi. I think there's one critical question for every panelist, and this, I don't want a long presentation. You've all laid a foundation as to what the Mahama government has done in the first year. I think the logical question is, what should the focus be for the second term or the second year, right? He's laid a foundation. He started certain things. What should he prioritize from now? All right? I think that question can be asked without a 10-minute presentation. Okay. So I don't know what I'm coming back to. I'm not going to go the same order. So who's ready to go? What, based on everything you've heard so far, in your thematic area, what 2 or 3 things do you think the president or the government should prioritize or emphasize? Because I think a number of you mentioned the structural issues. I think David was clear when he said he has done some things by plugging the hole, but there is a structural challenge he has to address. So you go first.
Yeah,
yes.
I think for education, 3 things. The first thing is that in 2025, the government did not recruit new teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact is that there are about 30,000 empty classrooms without teachers, impacting negatively on out-of-school children. In-school children are dropping out in many schools, as evidenced in our out-of-school census reports in the northern region. So
30,000 students.
There are about 30,000 classrooms without teachers.
We have 30,000 classrooms without teachers.
Yes.
In Ghana.
Yes.
Basic or secondary?
Basic.
30,000.
Not schools, classrooms.
Okay. Yes. Still 30,000 classrooms without teachers.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes. It's even more. It's even more. Yes. And so, you know, every year we need about 15,000 teachers to maintain equilibrium. Equilibrium meaning that to cover for inefficiency in teacher distribution and also atone for annual attrition.
And we have 30,000 classrooms.
One in 2025. So that's 15K.
So when they add the one they need for
before
this year,
that there was a deficit. Exactly.
So at least 30,000 teachers must be recruited.
At least.
Wow.
That's for basic school, not teachers for pre-tertiary, just basic. So the government must focus on deploying teachers to the areas they are needed. That is the first thing. Not just posting teachers, but posting them to the schools where they are needed. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing the government must do, that the government promised that it's going to implement a policy where teachers that are set posting to deprived areas will be given an allowance. I think it's a 20% allowance, deprived area allowance. We are in year 2. Such incentives must go with deploying teachers to those areas. Other than that, you will deploy 30K, but they won't go to Tatale Sangoli.
They won't go.
They won't go to Afram Place. And so that 20% deprived area allowance is critical for implementation in 2026.
Wow.
The final one I want to talk about is supervision of teachers. We are talking about WASI, we are talking about BBC, everything. It starts and ends with the efficiency with which teachers deliver, given the resources available. We want to see government focus more on ensuring that we improve the quality of teacher supervision, teaching, delivery, and learning in our secondary schools especially, and then in our basic schools. So these are 3 areas that I want to see government invest. Not all of these are big budget areas.
3 areas of improvement
very, very important
for education.
So that we can improve quality of learning outcomes.
Who wants to go next? Thank you. Let's put hands together for him. I think that was fantastic. And it was in just 2 minutes. So let's follow the queue. David, you want to go next?
Yes, I'll keep it as short as I can. The first one is actually get the people involved in the development and design of infrastructure.
Okay.
And we tend to underrate the people's energy. I think, and I'll come from an economic point of view and narrow down to infrastructure. I think one of the best things that happened in year 1 was the National Economic Dialogue.
Wonderful.
If you notice, in the previous regimes, they have attempted either some, including NDC 1 and Mahama 1 rather. They have either attended some national economic dialogue or some form of bringing people on board when the economy is in challenges. But this time, for the first time, it was done at the beginning.
From the beginning.
So far as I'm concerned, this should be done yearly.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be the same size, but it can be such that you get battery of people from different sectors who then contribute. And there should be a tracking system to know how their contribution was taken on board or not. It doesn't mean every suggestion should be taken on board, but at least they must be seen to be contributing in that way. That way it liberates energies, and I will come to liberating energy. So based on that, the suggestions going forward, I think for me, number 1 in infrastructure is actually the energy sector. Contrary to what many people think, its multiplier effect is very, very important. And it is for our long-term growth. And for a president who wants to leave legacy, getting the energy sector to develop a base load. A base load means that stability that will enable us not only bring the price down, but to industrialize. And again, there's no time to go into how it can be done, but this is doable. I mean, now still on that energy sector, I think it's important that we push the price to industry down. I think I've said that already, and I don't want to. But there's a third point in the energy sector which is quite important, and it tends to be overlooked. Look, with the advent of AI, which everybody is talking about, energy is actually the game changer, not AI. Just look around. Countries which attract databases, crypto, everything, are those who have got excess energy. And in Africa, the only country I talk about now is Ethiopia. Just because of the Renaissance Dam and the 6,000 megawatts of power that they release into the system. Quite a lot of data centers are being attracted there, which is beginning to now create a lot of special economic zones, industrial parks, etc. That's the way you industrialize and create jobs. So we should look at it that way. Second, we should try and bring the cost of doing infrastructure down, particularly the road sector. One of the things we take us to the IMF all the time that we tend to overlook, we focus on the so-called debt to GDP ratio, but what causes it? When you actually decide to deliver infrastructure, especially roads, and your structure of your contracting is such that it does not manage to fix or limit the cost escalation, no infrastructure gets done, almost no infrastructure gets done at the same price you estimated. So you make commitment, IMF and the rest are following, and they will say, oh, now the cost, including the contingent cost, is now added, and suddenly your debt to GDP ratio has shot up. There are several ways to bring the cost down, including the way we actually acquire the corridors for road. You see project affected persons, resettlement action plans, etc., which delay and increase cost. There's a lot that can be done there. I also think that a lot of infrastructure which has commercial character can actually be, quote and unquote, done with private sector funding without that huge recourse to government. And again, there are a lot of things that government can do in that sector. Water is another sector that we need to look at. There are ways of delivering water that is actually financed by the private sector. You'll be surprised to hear this. There is a project, and again, those in the water sector may know this, 360,000 meter cube of water over 72 kilometer pipeline that can come to Accra every day. For water that goes into the sea every day. Go to Suchari and Aveyime, we pour water into the sea, and then we create a desalination plant, bring it from the sea, and do desalination without even a pipeline to distribute it. I am telling you this, and you can take anybody in government who wants to, I can show him, not a single dollar is required from government for a private sector to bring that water. And again...
So it doesn't have to enter the sea yet?
It's already entering the sea every day.
Okay. So no, I'm saying there's already desalination, so you're saying they can do one before it enters the sea?
Yes.
Which
what
is
I'm
fresh
saying
water.
Is that what I'm saying, we have implemented water we bring from the sea.
Yes.
What about the one that is going into the sea for free?
Yeah.
And that water also have an export component for which there is funding available that enable us sell that water to neighboring countries at a price above the PURC price,
so
to
we can
be
make
subsidized.
Wonderful.
Again, these are the way you think and you create structural changes in the economy. Let me end with one because of time. Education. I think we can supply education infrastructure by liberating energies. There are several ways we can do this. For example, there are a lot of companies who will do CSIR by deciding to build schools to eliminate part of the schools under trees. They need to know where they are. Government need to benchmark the cost. And these schools then are identified with contractors who do the building at a fixed price. And it becomes tax deductible. It's not difficult to do that.
Beautiful.
You can even have people who pull it, whose name appear on the plaque, that I contributed this amount of money to building the schools. There is a formula to do this. It's very easy.
Education is happy.
I think Get Fund has started something similar.
Okay.
Where they have a fundraising unit now, so they're no more relying on government fully. And what that unit is doing is that they are tapping into CSR support, raising funding from corporates. And they have an arrangement.
It should be done with a national campaign.
Yeah, I'm coming there. And they have an arrangement with GRA. So if a company contributes 1 million they get the tax rebate equivalent at the end of the year. So that's something we must
we don't know.
encourage.
The thing that we don't know.
But
Only you and Get Fund know, because nobody here knows about
because
it.
we have been working with them on innovative finance.
The people in the mining sector and all the companies that have money to spend, if they knew this, then it can be implemented.
Practice.
We don't know.
I want to contribute
so they must scale it up.
I think it's a fantastic suggestion.
Idea.
So that they benchmark the price, they let us know the location, so you can pick 2 or 3 of them. The contractor is clear, so there's no corruption there. And when we spend 200,000, it will benefit our tax.
And then just one small point. The award of contract to contractors above a certain point should be tied to how much they have built these schools within a certain price. That way, you will eliminate schools under this in 2 years. It's not magic. We are not liberating energies of people.
We are trying to over-centralize our solutions, and we don't have the capacity to do it.
Because it's also for those who like to centralize things, they are the ones who sign the check, and that's how they get part of their money.
Procurement economy.
Yes, at times the desire to centralize it is also conscious.
Wonderful. I'm still taking top 2 or 3 suggestions for the government going forward. Let me do environment, I'll do economy, agric, and I'll end with governance. Then I'll come to you guys. So environment, what are your top 2 or 3 suggestions for the government going forward?
So I think, Bernard, before I even wrapped up, I made some recommendation.
Okay.
So I'll just go straight to the point that I forgot to include. For me, if you look at the issue of Galamsey, we can clearly see that it's poverty-driven, right? So if you're asking people to stop, then what are the alternatives that you're going to give them? So it will be very good that the government can sort of introduce some sustainable alternative livelihoods. And this obviously has to be done in consultation with the people. You need to find out what will work for them, what is economically viable. And then also just to come back to the point of, agriculture. Once you are introducing them, you need to create a market. Because you also don't want a situation that, they will go into whatever activities and then there's no market for it. So it's also very key that we look at things in that direction. And then most importantly, I think I highlighted on the issue of civic and then environmental education. Clearly, the fight is not only for government. You need the buy-in of people. So it's very important that, they go very big on education, different kinds of, dissemination, approaches and then strategies, all in the efforts of trying to shift the behavior of people. And I think once they're able to do that, we should be able to, head somewhere with that.
Good.
And then lastly, I think I mentioned the issue of trying to institutionalize it. You need to try and then empower the institution, give them the autonomy. Because clearly, there's word out there that most of these fights are being led by partisan people. And then when it comes to the mandate of the institution, they are sort of, handicapped or restricted. They arrest people and then they are getting calls from all over trying to get them to release them. So I think once we are able to sort of institutionalize it, then you give them the power to, face the fight fully and then squarely. So
wonderful. Let me go to agric and come to economy. Professor Canton, top 2 or 3 suggestions for the government.
Yeah, I will make it about 4 or 4 because actually some says that you don't need that much money to navigate them, so they can box them and move. The first and most important is research. Research and seeds. Actually, the government didn't mention research in the whole of their Feed Ghana project, and they just assumed that these things will work. Productivity will be enhanced. You will say you will have more of this and that. How will you get that? It can only be gotten through research. Unfortunately, research have not been highlighted. And now add to that, we're talking about seed systems, which is purely the brainchild of research. Without research, you can never get any material that you can stand on. As I talk in this Africa, in fact, if you are talking of best brains in agriculture, we have them here. I'm not boasting at all. You go to FAO, you go to the International Research Institute, a lot of them are fested with Ghanaians. And we are here also. In fact, like I told you the other time, the best all-round year maize that started over 6 decades and still is the best. It's called Obatampa, which every country uses it as source material, developed by Ghanaian scientists, my seniors, some are late now, who did that excellent work. every seed program in this world, including America, wherever you go. But now we have strangled with funding. In fact, researchers are paid basically only salaries. But money to do research, and you all know, we say research is expensive. Yes, if research is expensive, go and cause ignorance. Without that, we can't get anywhere. Every year, we are importing 400 million worth of fruit tomatoes, and it's increasing year in, year out. You're talking of onion, 100 million, carrots and all those things, aubergines, virtually every vegetable. And we do not have a dedicated research institute that will meet these demands.
Okay.
So the Ghana Institute of Horticulture is there, and they can support in this. I've said it here over and over that we need a horticulture research institute, just like my institute, Savannah Agri Cross Research. These are specific targeted institutes, and they are producing world-class, top-notch crop varieties and hybrids that can out-yield or are comparable with any international crop variety or hybrid. So that is number one, research, and then the seed system. The second has to do with the irrigation facilities. Since Ghana started, right, even from Nkrumah coming today, it was only a champion that built irrigation dams and schemes. No other party, no other government have done that. Some of them are in dire need for rehabilitation. They have just abandoned them. Nothing is working. And you all saw, they said, I mean, there was one village, one down. When even what is there, you can't maintain. Why do you, it's like marrying, you have two wives. You can't even take care of one. And you still want to add another two to add to that to cause yourself a more mess. You can't navigate a mess. Why invite more mess on you? If those are fixed, we are done. We are also told about the solar irrigation, and the facilities exist, like he said, and he continued also. Look at the white water, look at the black water, look at the red water. The water you're talking of, it's lying there. To just lift it, okay? I've worked in this since 31 years. It's just lifting right from the Kamba Dam. You go to Tamde, the Barre, it's just common sense. It's not even, it's not science, not to talk about rocket science. It's not science, it's commonsensical. Just put a pump there and lift it. The machines they are seizing, your people are seizing NIMO. Dash them to us so that you dash them to the districts. We just lift the water and you will have seeds produced in the dry season.
So irrigation focus
is number two.
Number two.
And then also the farm mechanization centers and the farmer service centers.
Is that number two or number three? That's
number three.
Farm
the farmer service centers and then the farmer mechanization. Actually, they kept them separately, but you can box them together because farmer service centers, actually mechanization has a huge component in it. But the government kept the mechanization centers, 50 of them. They are just going to be state of the art, right from planting up to harvesting and even processing. Fantastic. In fact, for these two, the Minister for Agri, Honorable Eric Opoku, actually, if he, I will go with you to his office. We just need the farmer service center because once it's there, it's one-stop shop.
Wonderful.
Everything is there. Seed, nobody will make noise again. So if these three that I've mentioned, in fact, already they are in the manifesto.
So they are not research and seed systems.
Yes.
Irrigation facilities, which is common sense.
Yes.
Farmer mechanization.
Yes.
And farmer service centers.
And then the last is the Tumu Cotton Ginnery.
Cotton Ginnery.
Yes. It's number. In fact, it's if they don't, I won't come here for your discussion. Oh yes, because we have been following. I'm serious, Bernard. We if not, I'll bring cotton farmers from Sosala area. We will come and pick it at Citi here. But you are supposed to carry that for
to cotton Ginnery.
Yes.
What's happening to it?
No, it has been grounded.
So they should revamp it.
It should be revamped. And we have several other generations. You have one at Pusu Namogo in the Upper East. You have one in Tamale, and you even have one in Wa. And if we are able to work on the cotton Ginnery, it's a replica effect. In Benin, they call it the white gold. Benin have no oil. Benin have no any agric facility. It's only cotton. And today, Benin is the most developed West African country.
Let me understand. Do we grow cotton in the country?
We used to grow the cotton in Tumu area there. Huge. In fact, we had the best cotton by then. Burkina was copying from us. When I was in the 70s, I was in primary school. The cotton from the Sisala area was premium cotton.
So they should revamp the cotton industry and build a cotton ginnery.
Exactly.
They should revamp it.
Exactly.
Interesting. I didn't know about this.
You have your companies, Japan Textiles, they are all perishing there. Then you are bringing cheap Chinese fabric here, killing local industry. Does that make sense?
No, please.
You see, we should maintain the materials and resources here. I'm a Russian trained. I lived in Russia, Ukraine. Look, they will never go for anything outside. Something they have the comparative and competitive advantage in. They believe in their own. We are saying grow Ghana, eat Ghana. Yet you are importing poultry. Some people call them mortuary into this country. Who needs that? No, that a lot of it, I don't eat them. It doesn't. That's why people are dying prematurely. But nobody researches into them. I'm not speculating. You are going to pick somebody have killed a chicken and dump it somewhere. You don't even know how it was produced in the first place. How was it preserved? Maybe they used formalin to preserve it, just like they were doing to bush meat here. You use formalin is used in preserving dead bodies. If they use it to preserve poultry or any meat product and bring here, it's pollution. So you have to determine what you eat. I don't service Maka anyhow. I don't think you do that as well. You go to a very good mechanic. Some go to Japan Motors like Merawudana and others. But when you are a big or Asare, Mr. Asare and they do. I'm a senior citizen now. But what you eat, you don't service it. You go and you are eating carelessly. She said the food you are eating is full of cyanide, lead, molybdenum, very sensitive elements. You perish. But Ghanaians don't check about that. But when your car, you say, oh, I want a Shell station, Shell oil, this and that. What of yourself? So agri is something we really need to relook at.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's put our together for Professor. Professor Mahama, you set us off. So what are your top recommendations? I think you hinted some in your presentation, but what should the government focus on in this second year?
Yes, so economics is broad, like governance. So the first thing is to consolidate the gains, the macro stability that we have. And we should bear in mind that some of the difficulty that we have, the challenges that we had, teething problems must be looked at. I think one of them is the domestic gold purchase, which has dominated discussions. Anytime you start a new model, you will have some challenges. And I think it's something that needs to be looked at. Where should the costs be shared and so on? Is something that can be done. So we have to consolidate the gain and make sure that the stability continues. I wouldn't worry if we are moving into the upper single-digit inflation. And if you look at the long-term inflation, let's say from 2000, and you add all variables, you will see that the optimum inflation will be around 7 to 9, maximum 10. So if we are around that point and it still stays there, it helps businesses to plan. And then I will urge Bank of Ghana to try and manage the exchange rate fluctuation within the 5% band, so that at least it will also not bring about a lot more fluctuation, as it does the first one. The second one is that having had the stability, we need to move into investment in infrastructure, because that will open the economy. Infrastructure has said a lot, Agric has said a lot, and infrastructure development must be targeted. It must also be financed through public-private partnership. I have a challenge when government has to do almost everything when it comes to infrastructure. Elsewhere, you don't build roads and nobody tow it. And I'm happy to hear the express route from Accra to Kumasi that will be towed. It means that you'll be able to get the returns, and government, the burden will not always be on government. And government should be very cautious not to rush to the capital market. I think I've had discussions on that. It is not bad to borrow, but you must borrow strategically.
Okay.
I will be happy if government will go to capital market and borrow, not to support the budget, but to target certain infrastructure, like we did for the gas pipeline.
Which can pay for itself.
Which can pay for itself, pay for an airport, which will pay for itself. If we
that's the PPP mandate.
Yes. If we have to go for roads, that will be something that I have a problem that roads are not being told. And when it is destroyed, government have to find money to do that.
Interesting. He also mentioned about the debt being from high cost of infrastructure. So both of you are saying that the financing of the project ab initio shouldn't raise our debt.
No.
You find a sustainable means of financing it so it doesn't raise our debt.
Yes.
And let it pay for itself.
Exactly. And when you do that, you will not have that debt overhang as we've had. The fourth one is that if you open up the economy, then we move into the real sector, industrialization and modernization of agriculture. These are the productive sectors that can lead to job creation. Government should avoid the old stuff that creating jobs is to create a model where government will come in and say, I'm going to employ. That is not sustainable. It is the private sector that creates jobs. Government have to facilitate. Government have to support the private sector. And if government support the private sector and private sector is able to produce and export, that is where your stability will be sustained and will be long-term. Remember, one thing that has sustained us as far as the exchange rate is concerned has been the reserves. The reserves. And the reserves have come from gold. Gold is finite. So you can do that over a period, but it cannot be the long term. I think the stability should open up the economy, get the productive sectors there, get the private sector to move the economy. Now move into the export. Your 24-hour economy should focus more on export to generate the revenue, and that is more organic. When export is coming from productive sectors, that is more organic than when it is coming from finite area. That one is supposed to be short to medium and support the productive sectors. I will end by saying job creation is crucial. The government should come in and make sure that the jobs that are being created will not only support the adults, but to also get the youth on board. That is where the intervention.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Professor Babating. So the last person on this panel for suggestions will be Mary Ada. Then we'll take a short break. When we come back, Umar Sanda and the students will be speaking around what they themselves also expect, and if they have any questions for the panel, we'll take it as well. So,
excuse me, can I make a point?
Yes,
you
please.
see, you're talking about this business called Change for Our Economy. I want a clarification here. Is this supposed to be a supervisory monitoring role it should play, or is also trying to go working like we do in agric and other areas? What is your take on that?
I'm not part of that, but my understanding is that it will be a facilitating kind of unit that will facilitate the production and export and everything that must be done in the economy. They are not coming in to do it
themselves. Yeah.
But when you look at the write-up in the manifesto, that is how it is. But it appears now, like it also wants to work like physically. It should have branches in the region, and this.
No, that's not what it is.
No, there's a secretariat that is facilitating.
They more coordinate. So they're basically encouraging
I am
people to
just
enter
cautioning.
And private sector will come in
because that is the mess that we had with SADA, which metamorphosed into NADA, Northern Development. Nothing to show off. Very bereft. It's not working. It's totally not. It's undesirable. We don't need them. You see, because you fix something that have not given anything. You are laughing, and they tell you that to help Northern. Which Northern have you helped? Tell me, which Northern have they helped? No, which Northern since the two started? Tell me. I have lived in the North all my life. Whom have they helped there?
Well, so they should repeat the mistake of SADA and Northern Development
So
Authority.
they should learn from it. And like you are saying, if it's supervisor, have no qualms. Because the institutions or ministries that have structures and can do these kind of things, number one, is a Ministry of Food and Agriculture, which also they have kept under local government. I have never agreed with that under some reasons I don't agree with, because they are in every community in this country. After agri, the second you will get is education, because the schools are in where communities are big, they cite them there. Then the third is Ghana Ghana Ministry of Health. All the other ministries, for example, Ministry of Industry,
they don't have the penetration of these three.
Tell me, where do they exist? Even you go to region, you have 3-4 people. How are you going to carry out a policy? How will you implement it? So that's what I'm cautioning.
Thank you for the caution. Wonderful. Let me take Mary, good governance, your top 2 or 3 suggestions for the government before we come to our audience.
All right. So for me, to pick on from where Prof. Canton left off, the issue of policy inconsistencies, and then sometimes even not just the inconsistencies, but the ad hoc nature of the policies that are grounded in political talk and speeches which are made, transcend into some of these confusion when it comes to policy making and also reflecting them in policy implementation. What we need to do in the governance space is to ensure that we are designating funding, special funds, like Kofi was talking about Get Fund for education, and even there are still gaps. If we want to promote good governance in Ghana, then we must reflect that in action. And the action would be to provide the right resources to ensure that every plan we put in place is actualized. And so for me, there should be some kind of reflection on that to then ground it in policy and also put it into what we are going to be working on, the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Plan, which encompasses everything around governance. I say so based on the fact that we say about $3 billion is lost annually in Ghana through corruption. Can you imagine if you designate just a percentage of the GDP to the governance sector, specifically to fighting corruption, and then you give these institutions some serious key performance indicators to work around? You can imagine that $3 billion will go into recruiting all the 30,000 teachers for the education sector and build some schools actually for us. So that should be what government should be thinking about now if they want to fight corruption. I also say so because it's like over the years you see most of the institutions giving budgets, and at the end of the day, even those budgets, I hear this year the budget is about 65 or thereabouts expended, meaning we give money, allocate monies, but these are not given to the institutions to work. So we need to reflect that in the allocation. Again, I believe that it is myself and you, our role to ensure that we promote civic accountability. If we do not, governments will come, governments will go. And I say let's promote that and actively engage, because if we do not follow through, governments will do what they want to do, which they see as policy. Whether they are incoherent or coherent doesn't matter. So far as they have people supporting them to do so, they would follow through and do what they want. At the end of the day, it is we, the people, who suffer. And remember, the Constitution tells us that the land belongs to us. We only give our mandate to those in authority to rule over us. So let's pay attention. Let's interrogate policy. Let's also ask the needed questions and make our politicians who we have put out there know that we cannot be taken for granted.
Wonderful.
It is very important. And then the role of civic education in all of this, from economy to environment to whichever, it's very important. We need to find a way of ensuring that the NCCE and other actors who do civic education are engaged, doing all the work to ensure that we build the capacity of citizens, be they the youth, be they women, excluded, included, whoever, to ensure that we are following through. First, if it comes to anti-corruption, when we see it, let's say something. Don't leave it at saying something, report it. After you have reported it, follow through to ensure that it is investigated. And do not give up when it is slow. Because as we are told, the wheels of justice grind slowly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. We are still here at the Roundtable Discussion here at Channel One Television, live on Citi FM as well. When we come back, Umaru Sandamadu will help us with some comments, and also our live panel or our live audience from the two universities. I'm sure they have a few things to say or contribute or ask. We'll go to them before we take closing comments from our in-house panel. Stay with us.
In a world filled with challenges, we all need guidance, hope, and a lifeline to anchor us.
This is Lifeline, and I'm your host, Fred Crunchy Mensa.
From social issues, relationship challenges, and family matters, Lifeline is here to inspire, uplift, and guide you on your journey.
Where we give you support, where we hold your hand through the valley and through the thick and thins of life.
Join Bishop Fred Crunchy Mensa.
I welcome you especially to Lifeline.
Every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. right here on Channel One TV. Let's walk this path together, strengthen our faith, our families, and our lives. Lifeline, because every soul deserves a guiding light. Tune in to Lifeline on Channel One TV and let's grow together.
Full of questions, where truth often hides behind noise, one show dares to ask what truly matters face to face. With fearless clarity and a quest for accountability, host Umaru Sanda Amadu sits down with the movers and shakers of politics, governance, society, and business, confronting the issues that define our national conversation.
Yes, I am Umaru Sanda Amadu. This is Face to Face, and you're welcome.
I say very often on the floor of Parliament that when we were in government, we got some things right, we got some things wrong.
Are you still planning to go to Parliament, or you want to look at National Party office position?
No, I'll be going back to Parliament. There's an unfinished business which I need to do.
Sports has three legs: development, management, and promotion.
Disintegration is extreme. We do not wish that even on your worst enemy.
Every Tuesday at 9 p.m., join Umaru Sanda Amadu on Face to Face as he digs deeper, challenges power, and reveals the stories shaping Ghana's future. Only on Channel One TV.
Let's get into the world of sports like never before.
You know how we do it on Fridays.
Join us every Friday at 7 p.m. on 97.3 Citi FM for Sports Panorama, your ultimate destination for all things sports.
One of the biggest scandals in this country's history. You can't spend 250 million USD and come out with that.
From the thrill of association football to the excitement of basketball, tennis, athletics, and even emerging sports, we cover it all. Whether it's the Premier League or the latest NBA showdown, we bring you the stories behind the stars.
Getting an opportunity to become a national team coach, he should understand the politics around football.
And don't miss the prayer of the rabbi.
Joe was Zebal. How Zebal there? Zebal won Chaboke.
We're not just about the games, we're about the community.
If you are going to be given this kind of treatment, then you need to be that guy. When I look at him play, he is not it.
Or when it's time for Don't Call Me. Join the conversation as we connect with fans across the country and beyond. What's the latest updates? Send us your thoughts and we'll feature your comments live on air. And remember, we like to hear your predictions for matches and your thoughts in general. Think you know who's going to win? Let us know.
Big shout outs to my YouTube people.
Tune in every Friday at 7 p.m. only free on 97.3 Citi FM. Sports Panorama, where sports come alive.
Me ke man bi mo no Kofi Adam no my kami. Matwale. Man ke la ke no ya ne. Meneke. Fe mo sha ko ba club me fe ke DJ. Ni wo hia ka wo hye. Ye Yesu gba mi. Amen.
Sports Panorama, your weekly sports fix. Don't miss out on the action. Sports Panorama. Catch the excitement every Friday.
You're welcome back. This is the Roundtable Discussion on Mahama's first year in his second term. You can call Mahama chapter 2, verse 1, and you wouldn't be so wrong. Bernard Avle has been a wonderful panelist all morning. I think it's fair that we give them a round of applause, should we not? I am Umar Rusan. I'm going to bring the microphone to the audience, even though I had a question. In fact, there's a general question, Bernard, I want to throw to your panelists. I interviewed Dr. Marcus Ibeyebua. He understands our economy very well. And he said there is a role of luck in what we are seeing now. So there's good luck happening, the price of oil, the price of commodities and all of that. If that good luck leaves, what happens? Because there's this refrain that, oh, Kufuor in his first year did great. Mahama or Mills, first year did great. So first years are always good. Nakufado's first year was great, but things will go bad. Would things go bad in the second and third year? That's something I want to know from you. But let me come to this audience. So my now for you, and of course, Citi University for here. You've been listening all morning. All submissions that you think ask what is the microphone, so you make that submission. If you can ask to a comment, please. Let's hear from you now. So just microphone to you. Yes, starting with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so just introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm Mami Efia Owusu from Academic Citi University. And I have more of a question. When
Yes, proceed.
Bob Boateng was speaking, in one of the graphs, he showed that even though employment increased in the past year, it mainly favored those who are older or those who are not within the ages of 15 to 24. And so I have been trying to juxtapose that with the National Pension Regulatory Authority's decision or motion somewhere last year to increase the age of retirement from 60 to 65. And so from the economic standpoint, how is this going to benefit the country? And in the next 3 years, what would you suggest to be the best way to go? And then lastly, you know, sometimes it's easy to say, oh, this is the government's responsibility, oh, this is for the government. But where do we draw the line between our responsibility and the government's responsibility? Thank you.
Thank you so much from Academic Citi University. So, Prof, that's a question for you. And I always remember the comment Bernard says that you have said what you cannot measure, you cannot deal with. This one you can measure it. So I look forward to your answers. Let me take my next question from that aisle. Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. My name is Odro Persla Ama, a student of Unimac IG, and my question goes to Prof. So just like in his graph, he said it doesn't favor from 15 to 24 years because he gave a reason, and then he said because the job market seeks for people with experience. So how are we going to help between 15 to 24 years since they are looking for experience? And also my next question is, could there be something done in our basic institutions, basic schools, so that right from a very young age, we train up the child to pick up the pace in the job market, since the job markets look for experienced people? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I see that the questions are coming interested in youth employment or unemployment because they're just coming out of university very soon. So they want to know where the jobs would be coming from. Very, very important and brilliant question. Let me go in and take my next question from the right aisle. So please kindly introduce yourself and your subject.
Okay, thank you very much to Citi FM or ChannelOne. I'm the person of Abdul Latif Usman Chibu, a student from Academic City University, a level 300 electrical and electronic engineering student, a young youth who is aspiring to contest as a member of parliament in 2028. Thank you very much.
Which constituency?
And okay, this is a very hidden thing that I can't reveal right now. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much.
This was a campaign launch pad for you, but you don't want it, so
yes.
you proceed.
Yes. So thank you very much. As a youth who is advocating for development, I want to focus on what Daddy was saying. This is a very, very good submission that he said. Why are we all saying that agriculture, everyday agriculture? You said you've reduced everything, but I suffered to buy fertilizer of 600, 500, and after everything, I came and you are telling me that to sell my maize 200 cedis. So people were saying that maize was out. People were buying it, but now maize 200, no one can buy it. What is happening in the economy? Let's go back to our Galamsey. You are fighting against Galamsey where there's no job for the youth. I'm seated there, I don't have anything to eat, and you are telling me that I should stop what I'm doing. I suffered, my father suffered to sell all his kettles for me to go to school. After that, there's no employment. Where should I go? So I'm asking. They are talking about infrastructure. Look at the traffic system in the country. What are they doing about the traffic system? Education. We are putting agric students inside classrooms where there are lots of lands for them to go and weed. This is where at least 90% of their classrooms should be on the field. But we've kept all these agric students inside the class, teaching them something which will never help the country. Okay. Let's say after graduation, what are they going to do? Some agric students, they can't even plow a mold of yam. They also want white-collar jobs after graduation. Where are the jobs? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we are talking about Mahama's 1 year. We are assessing to see what he's got right, what he's getting wrong, and what we should do moving forward so that we see progress. Of course, what you have said is in a bigger national picture of challenges that we have. So I'm sure we'll be getting reactions to that from my panelists. Let me take the next question or comment.
Okay, I am Mohammed Yassin Abdul Wahab, second-year student, currently studying electrical engineering at University. Okay, I have quite a couple of questions. Okay, first of them is some countries have long-serving presidents. This notion, it's quite becoming popular that Mahama should be allowed.
Can you lift up your microphone a bit? Yes, so we can hear you.
In a popular opinion that the president should be allowed to run for a third term or till he thinks he's okay to step down. And why do you think some groups are kicking against this idea if we clearly see that some countries like China, who are doing very well, their presidents in Russia, their presidents have been involved for quite a number of years? And also, my next question is, why isn't the education sector adjusting to the pace at which the world is moving right now? Because when you look at the basic school level, especially when you go to the IT side, with the advent of AI and all that, you go to basic school level, and all they are teaching them is right click, left click, and I feel most of what they know, when it comes to IT, it's not being taught in school. But actually, they are taught what they don't need, if I may put it that way. Okay. And also, my next question is:
can that be your last question?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let me look through the questions. Okay. There has been indicators that actually the economy is doing well, but someone on the outside will say I'm not actually feeling it in my pocket, because you see someone who say, oh, the dollar is 10 cedis, the dollar is this, the dollar is that. But you go to a shop to buy rice, you go to shop A, the price of rice is, let's say, 10 cedis. You go to shop B, the price of rice is 15 cedis. If all these indicators are showing that the economy is doing very well, why isn't it reflecting?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I think questions for Mariada. I think Professor Doti has something in there. And Prof. Canton, on the cost of food produce in the farm and also in the market centers, what's the disconnect? My brother, please go ahead.
Papa Kwesi from Academic City. I'm an IT student. And he touched on one of the questions that I wanted to ask. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of La Paz. So I remember we did an outreach in one of the regions, is it Volta region or something? And sadly, we had to park our car and walk about 3 kilometers to the community we're going to. And so, funny enough, the children in the community have never seen a monitor before. So I spent like a week there to analyze how the teachers teach some of these things. So the teacher has to draw a whole setup of a computer. You draw a mouse. The mouse was actually stones, designed nice stones with something. So for something like this, I feel like the way Rotract and Lions and other clubs do, I feel like the government should step in to, kind of reduce taxes when we import some of these things that we give to rural areas. And I also feel like for agriculture, say that to you, I feel like Ghana should move from this cocoa all the time to cotton, like what he was saying. Like cotton, it should be like moving from cocoa to cotton, coconut, and cashew, so that we can like diversify how we export our finished. And we should also look at a way to like manufacture, produce and manufacture our own things.
Cocoa to cocoa. Thank you so much. Now let me take my last two questions from the in-house audience, and then we can take it back to the panelists. Yes.
Okay, I'm Nisetre. My question goes to Doc. That was a brilliant discussion on the environment. I would want to ask a question pertaining to what you talked about, the fight against Galamsey. I grew up in a Galamsey community, and as somebody who grew up there, I want to ask whether you do not think that the current mode of the fight is fighting the symptom rather than the cause. Because we all know the people in the community, when you go, everybody knows who owns the concessions. Everybody who knows the young men who are hungry, just as you said, that it's a poverty-driven issue, and who just go there to go and get some 100 cedis or 200 cedis a day. So instead of fighting the young men who are hungry, why don't you go after these big men, some of who are businessmen, politicians, politically connected people? And then if we're able to stop it from that point, do you not think it will be an easier fight instead of going after these young men, imprisoning them, beating them up? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just pass the microphone on. Yes.
Please, my name is Linda from Unimac IG. On the environment, I think the government is doing well. He has made efforts on the environment. I think with environmental issues, it's very complex, and then it requires very extensive,
approach.
Yeah, approach. So the government needs to do something about it. It's not just being in the policy. I think they need enforcement and then citizen participation also. Okay. Then my question is, it seems the housing policy and then support is always on University of Ghana. Could it be done about the housing support on Unimac IJ, because we really need housing support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm personally interested in this question because when I went to GIJ, we were told we have a new campus at Jolo. It took 100 years before that campus was eventually put up. And so hostels for the school, I mean, yes. But Legon itself, they have their own challenge with accommodation and all of that. So we've seen the announcement and also the increase in levies and all of that. So it's interesting. But Bernard, so my audience here, you've heard them. We are part of what you are doing. We are supporting you. We are excited. And these are the questions and comments we have from here. I am Umaru Sanda. Back to you, Bernard Avle, and your panel.
Thank you, Sanda. It's quite interesting, unemployment because of the age profile. So the issue about the economy doing well on paper, translating, is very big there. So clearly, the young people have a different view of what sometimes we discuss, which is why it's very important we brought them. That the reality on the ground, for those who don't have voice, is that they can only interpret all your numbers from their pocket and whether they have opportunity. So I think the students have, I'm not even sure these questions you can answer them. They are more around the government and how it thinks about what it does, all right? But of course, you can comment on them as you wrap up. But I really want to appreciate your questions because the government is listening, and a lot of times we, the people in the media, we only focus on the hard numbers, we report macro stability, inflation, blah, 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 and we assess them based on our own metrics. But where the rubber meets the road is, can I get food to eat? Will I get accommodation? Will I get a job? You know, those are the key points. So what I want to do is, we have just 15 minutes, Sanda. So I'm going to lace your answer to your closing remark. So I'm just going to one round. So when you comment on what touches you in the question, you also close there, all right? Since a lot of the questions came to Prof, I'll start with you. And then from there, I'll move around the panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll start with Umaru's question from Mark Esibe-Yabua. I mean, in my presentation, I started by, when I was giving reasons why we have this stability and appreciation, I spoke about good prices of cocoa and gold. So that is something that has helped us. And it will not be there forever. That gives opportunity for government to come up with strategies such that if there was any shock, especially when the prices of these commodities go down, we will not find ourselves wanting. So it is up to government to make sure that it diversify its export proceeds, so that it will not only be gold and cocoa and perhaps oil, but will go into other areas, especially manufactured exports, especially looking at adding values to our agri products, so that at least when the downside comes, we will have a place to escape. So that is an answer to that. The other one is we are not feeling it in our pockets. Yes, this comes up almost all the time. Inflation talks about movement of prices, general price, every good and services. So even though we have inflation coming down, it doesn't mean that prices of goods and services are coming down. No. It is about the rate at which prices are going up. So for instance, we have inflation at 5.4%. So it means that in December 2024, if we bought something at 100 cedis, then in 2025 December, it is 105 cedis, 40 pesos. That is what it means. So if inflation is 50%, it means that it will be 150. So the rate at which prices are going up is what inflation is talking about. But we consider all prices across the country. So whilst we will be concerned about the fact that prices are still high in Accra, when you go to Kumasi, you go to Takoradi, you go to my village, you will see that prices will not be as much as that. So, but we've put everything together to give an indication as to how the price movement is going. So we are not saying that when inflation is coming down, it means that everything is good. It means that some people will be happy, some people will not be happy, depending on the commodity that you purchase. So you may be purchasing goods that are in the malls and also boutique. If the prices are still high, it doesn't mean that when you go to the village and you are buying maize, and we spoke about maize price at 250. So maize prices have come down, and then we also have others staying the same. So it is an indicator or indicative of how prices are moving. The other one, which comes to the youth issue, is very, very important. And if we need to have a whole program to be able to address that. Now, I started by saying that if you leave the private sector, if you yourself is employing somebody to do some work for you, because you want to get profit, you will go for the one who is more experienced. So if you don't have the experience, it becomes very difficult for you to get there. And because we are talking about the job market, which is more like demand and supply, if you don't have the skills, which includes the experience, and experience doesn't mean working for a long time. Experience also means what you have acquired. And therefore, how do you position yourself to be able to take advantage? I always advise my students that don't remain jobless for a long time. When you are applying, they will say, what have you been doing over the past 3 years? So even volunteerism is something that students should be able to pick it up. For example, when school is on recess, long vacation, do you take advantage and see if we can find something for yourself? If you can approach, and this is one particular example I give, which is a low-hanging fruit. You are in the university, you are in level 300 or level 400. You are very brilliant. School is not in session. Where you stay, have you looked at the area? How many children are in secondary school, JHS, class 1, and have done it before? And you say, you can approach and say, well, I'm not doing it, and can I help your child? I did it when I finished sixth form, and I was teaching. Not necessarily to get money, but I can tell you I didn't charge. But when I ended, I got more money than if I had charged. So, and I also gained experience. So volunteerism is something that I want to inculcate into the minds of students. And when you have your CV and you indicate what you have done, volunteerism, it tells the employer that this person has initiative. So if I employ him, even if I haven't asked the person to do one or two, he knows what to do. That is for our case. But what government has to do is that government has to also come in to support the channel through which young people also get jobs and provide incentives for enterprises to be able to also get young people. And one thing also I want young people to also appreciate is that when you find Ben sitting there and moderating, it didn't start today. He was a student. Perhaps when he came to Citi, he was just running around and so on. You need to start somewhere. We call something reservation wage. Don't go to the interview and say, I want a car, I want this. You need to start somewhere and work your way up. And that is what young people have to take note of.
Thank you very much. We have 10 minutes and I have 5 more panelists. So everybody has not up to 2 minutes. So who's going to respond next? Environmentalist.
So, Nana writes, Kingsley, D or K, I truly share your sentiment as well. I mean, with the issue of trying to, or asking the people to stop the Galamsey activity, obviously, you can't take people's livelihood from them. So I think earlier on in one of my submissions, I mentioned it would be good to provide sustainable alternative, livelihoods. And then also in addition to that, I think one of the causes of Galamsey has to do with the issue of ceding off large concession to these large mining companies. So people most often are left with, lands which are not viable for farming. So I think these are some of the things that the government needs to, look at when it comes to giving out concessions. And then also on the issue of going after the wrong people. You need to get a disclaimer, you get into trouble on that, yes. And I think I've repeated it over and over. I'm sounding like a broken record now. We need to institutionalize it. Government needs to give them the autonomy, okay? Such that whatever reform you put in place, it will be able to withstand all these, elite pressures and all that.
All right.
So we need to see some persecutions to direct that.
Thank you, Dr. Ikuya Odum. Let me come to Kofi Asare. Any comments, questions that you want to address?
It's true. Many schools don't have access to ICT facilities, even though computing is a compulsory subject, and digital skills is a core competency in our standard-based curriculum. majority of our schools, I mean, only about 2% of our basic schools have functioning computer laboratories. So many have been drawing the things on the board and all that. It's a decision the government must take. The government somewhere in the manifesto promised to provide solar and all that. The reality is that without power, there can't be computer facilities. And in deprived areas, many schools don't have access to electricity. So the two, come together. I want to see government give us a clear plan about how it intends to provide ICT facilities and renewable energy as much as practicable to schools in deprived areas. But my advice to the government in this year is that the government must focus more on budget credibility. We want to see much more expedited releases, because delayed releases impact negatively on policy outcomes. And so we want to see a much more expedited releases for DACF, especially for GOG, so that policies as intended, are implemented.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kofi Asare. Let me come to Professor Canton. I'll do Mary, then I'll end with you, David.
I just wanted to add the education before I conclude. You see, I come from Chumu. I was at a school called Igala Primary. Can't I give a laptop or a desktop to the school if even they don't even have power? Commonsensical, they can show them this is a keyboard, this is a... So we shouldn't say everything government. We can do better. Navrango Secondary School, go and see the fantastic job people are doing. So can we trickle that down? Everything government, MP, politician, why?
The responsibility of the government to provide a learning environment for learning to take place.
But if it's not doing that, if it is not doing that, or it hasn't the capacity, citizens can help. That's what I'm saying.
It has the capacity. We have to demand accountability from the government.
Yes, you can, but the two can run parallel.
But it shouldn't be citizens' responsibility. It is the responsibility of the government.
But we can run that with them. So I have children. I can't take care of them.
But Prof, that's why David spoke about government should unleash the energies. In the example he gave around the private sector, he says, government, don't try and do it on your own, but create a framework.
Yes, so that people can...
Because if a company wants to get tax deduction for supporting CSR,
yes,
he won't give it for corruption. He won't give you the money so you go and overprice it. So create the framework so that if somebody wants to contribute, they can contribute in a meaningful way. So even the incentive to get a citizen to do it is still with government. I think David made that point. So I think that settles the debate. We are not saying citizens should not be involved, but create it so that a person has the incentive to do it so that he can track the money. Let me take your own submission because you have just a minute.
You mentioned fluctuating prices of goods. Very simple. Currently, as I talk, you have cheap food coming in from left and right, Burkina, the sea, and all that. Nobody's regulating that. And any time that food prices outside are higher and farmers want to export to India and other places, maize and soya beans, which they will buy out, send them outside, process them, and sell them back to at very high prices as poultry feed. Does that make sense? Then you see the minister get up and say that, I've banned it. Meanwhile, we say we are liberal. You say it's open market. But anytime a farmer wants to enjoy, we are always, you don't, how will farmers get rich? Mera Woldana is going to Navrango, a poor woman is selling yams. She's bargaining very hard. But when you come to Accra Mall or China Mall or ONC, you don't bargain there. Meanwhile, it's the same price question that they have also done. Does that make sense? No. So these are some of the issues that we have. Then also you talked about government, diversification. Yes. Go to Australia now, Indonesia. A lot of them now have gone into cocoa product, even China. Yes. So very soon we'll be priced out. And we are here, Cocoa Board, one of the most corrupt institutions. It has been there cyclical. No, every time there are problems, I'm not the one saying it's there.
So let's diversify to coconut, cashew.
So exactly, cotton.
The
white gold.
Wonderful.
I think these things will help.
Thank you.
And lastly, on agricultural students not knowing crops and other things. Yes, there are even universities that are training graduates and they have no school farms. How can you train a medical doctor without a clinical? Tell me, you train a medical doctor, Kolibu, and you don't have clinicals for the students to learn.
You can't do that.
So we need to have such school farms,
right.
and then what my brother said.
Mary, I'll give you a minute, and I'll end with David 1 minute as well.
I just wanted to talk about the issue around tenure and tenure extensions.
Yeah.
We have limits within which we work. The Constitution is very explicit when it speaks to the fact that everyone who is elected as president can have another opportunity to be president, and so 2 tenure limits. The constitutional review process, even though they've heard it, it's not one of the recommendations. Whoever is proposing this, maybe my personal opinion on that, if you on this, is the fact that what we have now, we should be content with, live with. We are not in Russia and we are not in China. Our dispensations are different. Our current architecture is modeled around the US and Britain. So why don't you also ask, why is it that in Britain somebody can be a prime minister for 1 day and then the next day he is removed? And in the US, which model we use and rely on very greatly is also 4 years. So why do you now want us to extend it? Unless and until there is, and that is an enshrined clause as well, which can be activated, but I believe that at this point, can you imagine if we had that type of architecture in the past where you saddle yourself with people perhaps who do not perform well, who are on your necks and you cannot breathe? I think we are best where we are now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the last word to David, the minute.
One, I think we should learn to coordinate our thinking comprehensively. What about just on the question of agri pricing, we need to solve the problem of whether we want a guaranteed minimum of price for farmers. Because a guaranteed minimum price can actually solve your inflation problem. Whether we want to introduce agri insurance, which we don't have, whether we want to spend money from government to create pack houses, warehouse product, etc. That's number one. Number two, we need to actually take right the moment. The world is changing, but we seem to be still thinking in the old ways. I hear people talk about AGOA. AGOA is ending. And meanwhile, China has offered $250 billion tariff-free trade. And even though Ministry of Trade is negotiating, I don't see a lot of encouragement for us to diversify exports and change that direction when AGOA is actually dropped to only 1.4% of trade across Africa. Lastly, let's remember the Bible story. 7 years of fat cow, 7 years of... It doesn't matter what, there will be turbulence. It will come either as a result of global financial crisis, COVID, I don't know how, but there will be turbulence. Now, how do you prevent that? That's the key charge of the government. We didn't create a sovereign wealth fund out of cocoa, nor timber. What has happened with gold board, in my view, this is the time to move from reserves of in terms of what do you call that feature? You are the prof, the import cover, to creating a wealth fund out of gold. Thank you. And I predict that gold price will remain high throughout this year, just because of what Trump is doing and the dollar itself being. So we have to create a conscious wealth fund. When that turbulence comes, that's the only way.
For the 7 years of farming. A round of applause for the panel. So through the power of convening, Channel One and Citi FM have brought you an enlightening conversation which has catalyzed action around governance, economy, environment, education, agriculture, and infrastructure with our 5 or 6 thematic area experts. We've been helped by students from Unimac IJ and the academic city. I've been assisted by Umaru Sanda Amadu to bring you this very enlightening conversation. A big thank you to the technical team for making this happen, and a big thank you to you for watching. There are a couple of comments I couldn't read, but we'll spread them on the social media platforms as well. Thank you so much for being part of the Roundtable thematic assessment of 1 year of Mahama 2.0. Till we see you next time, my name is Bernard Avele. Have a fantastic afternoon. Bye-bye.